this really is the new signing day?
I believe that it is. And based off of what we saw a year ago, as you said, roughly 72% of the class signs in the early signing period. I think we can start removing the term early and just call it the signing period. And then the rest in December and January will become the residual signing period as we close out their boards. Everything starts to get streamlined.
Why do they still use fax machines? Come on, people, fax machines. It's 2018. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Of course, celebrating, in a sense, the national holiday for many of you, not necessarily me, but as an extension, yes, I understand the importance. It's like the NFL draft. It is National Signing Day, the early edition. So most of you know that National Signing Day has historically been on the first February Wednesday of February, the first Wednesday of February last season, basically to help out the student athlete. And by all criteria, by all metrics, this certainly helps that student athlete who wants to shut down their recruitment to make a decision and not be bothered the rest of their senior year or for the next few months through the holidays. This early signing day has been established for many other reasons besides that, many that we've addressed at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. But this is the early signing day. We did know going into the 2017 December early signing day what kind of an impact the early signing day would have on the overall recruiting and signing of high school football talent landscape. And it was tremendous. It was overwhelming. 221 of the top 300 players in the nation signed in December. So that's 72%, something in that range. Over or nearly 80% of the prospects that were signed by Power 5 teams in the 5 major conferences, plus the major independents, were signed in December. So that still makes February very important as we look at the final 25 to 30% of the players and 25 to 30% of the top prospects to be signed that will still be making their decisions in the next few months. But this has, of course, taken over as the early signing day. So this is a watch party, meaning that I'm not going to be talking the entire time. What we're going to be doing is setting up the day for you here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. All right. So we're watching the TV coverage on ESPN2 and then ESPNU. Certainly, I encourage you not to try to watch it here. This is for you to chat with your buddies on the live chat. Of course, this is the self-proclaimed best live chat room in college football online. You guys, many of you have said the same thing. So I will certainly be diving into the chat myself and responding to questions and comments from you. I'm not a recruiting expert. On many levels, I would consider myself a college football expert. That's maybe a discussion for another day. But based on the content and the delivery of the content and the delivery of the analysis, discussion, debate, I certainly would stand by that historically and in terms of today's game. But recruiting, no thanks, not a part of it. However, if you have been a viewer of Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, during the off season, you know that we do up recruiting about as well as we possibly can for a site, for a channel that covers the entire nation, the entire landscape of college football. I have connections with over 100 bloggers, broadcasters, and writers, and bring them in on a regular basis to talk recruiting and National Signing Day. Today's effort will probably be the pinnacle of that. If you have joined us for signing day, again, both in December and then prior to that, including the first Wednesday of February, you have seen us bring on dozens and dozens of contributors throughout the day, and then the following days to give their take, their review, their recap, their analysis on their particular team's recruiting class. We will do that all in one day, and then possibly beyond that throughout the weekend. But this is kind of a difficult time for those of us who love the college football playoffs and the bowl system and the bowl games, because that's what I'm typically covering. I should be cutting previews and predictions for bowl games, but they have landed National Signing Day, the early signing day, right in the middle of bowl season. We've got a bowl game tonight. We had one last night with UAB winning its first bowl game ever in program history to culminate an 11-3 season in Conference USA Championship, defeating Northern Illinois in the Boca Raton Bowl, the Cheribundi Boca Raton Bowl. Let's not leave that out. All right, so this is recruiting. This is not my forte, but we still deliver it for you here at Mark Rogers TV. So you're going to see little analysis from me, hear little analysis from me. So if you're asking me questions regarding recruiting, yes, I can weigh in on some things that I know, some things that I picked up. But basically, I'm the college football guy. On the field, the organization, the structure, the systems, the personnel, the play, the conferences, all of that, the history, I'm your guy. Recruiting, that's why we bring on our guests. So starting at noon, so we're going to be with you for about 90 minutes here for the watch party. I'm not going to be sitting here talking the entire time. I've got some work to do. I need to plan and prepare for the rest of the day. I will be checking in with the live chat and answering your questions and comments. You will probably see me take some swigs of water, maybe eat a banana, a bowl of cereal. Just feel right at home here at Mark Rogers TV. So I'm just going to lounge around. I cannot sit in this chair. I can't do it from now until midnight. 14 hours of sitting in this chair, I cannot do it. So my back is hurting just thinking about it. So I will be up and about during this 90 minutes, because then starting at noon, we will cease to do the live stream. But however, I want you, if you're locked into recruiting and love recruiting, to be waiting for those notifications, because they will be churning out like nobody's business. So from noon on throughout the rest of the day, evening and night, I have guests lined up. Every half hour, I've got a guest. Every half hour. I believe we've got a signing. We've got it from something we already knew. We already knew. #1 player in the nation, Kayvon Thibodeau, has signed a letter of intent to play at the University of Oregon. So that came out a few days ago. And that actually was probably a tape from a few days ago, it appears. All right. So throughout the day, we are loaded down with guests. And then I will release those reports, those conversations, as soon as I possibly can. And I'll see how that works out, how the workflow comes together on that. So keep this in mind. Here's our lineup for today, and it's growing by the minute. Starting at 12:30 Eastern time, we've got Stephen M. Smith of Touchdown Alabama to talk Tide recruiting class. 1 o'clock, Charlie Burris, Orange and White report on Tennessee. At 1:30, Jason Ray of Last Word on College Football covering Oklahoma. All right, at 2 o'clock Eastern time, Jordan Kay from Arizona State's House of Sparky on SB Nation to talk Arizona State. At 3 o'clock, we've got Savannah Lee Richardson from Georgia, Bulldog Illustrated, to talk up the Bulldogs recruiting class, probably the #2 class in the nation behind Alabama. We've got the Rebel Walk coming on at 3:30 Eastern time to talk up Ole Miss. We've got USC's Conquest Chronicles from SB Nation at 4 o'clock Eastern time. James Coleman and Sports Den Live, of course. James joins us on a regular basis to talk Florida State football. Former Florida State fullback from 2002 to 2005. He joins us at 5:30 Eastern time. At 6 Eastern, it's Mike LaValle from Last Word on College Football to talk Tennessee's recruiting class. Skylar Callahan at 7:15 from Dub V Nation to talk West Virginia. We've got SB Nation's Tim Aiden from Black Shoe Diaries to talk Penn State at 8:30. Chris Fetters from Dogman. That's, I believe, the SB Nation platform, if I messed that up in terms of the affiliation there. But Chris Fetters, Washington at 9 o'clock. Kevin McGuffey at 9:30 Eastern time on the Kentucky Wildcats from Last Word on College Football. Then keep in mind that I have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16 other contributors who have said that we want to be on today. We will get you a team report. We just don't know exactly when, because they're going out to the news conferences to hear from the coaches and players, talk to the players, hear from the coaches, mostly the coaches, obviously, on National Signing Day. Boy, this harkens me back to days gone by, standing with Tommy Tuberville or Jackie Sherrill at the tote board in their office, running through National Signing Day and reporting live way back when, from 1994 to 2000. Yes, was my run of National Signing Day in the SEC. Of course, ESPN2 on, as well as ESPNU later in the day. So obviously you're going to get your primary coverage online elsewhere in terms of actual signings, the numbers, the facts, the metrics, who's going where when they come down. For analysis, we do that like nobody else when you consider the scope. If you want to hit the Georgia channel, particularly about the Bulldogs, you go find somebody else, or Ohio State or Kansas or whomever. But if you want the national landscape and you want a little bit of everyone, then you join us here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, because again, team reports all day from 12:30 on for the rest of the day. If there is a team that we cannot cover, it's not due to a lack of effort. So if you have favorite media guests, writers, bloggers, broadcasters out there that you would love to see here at Mark Rogers TV, or maybe you've seen in the past but haven't seen recently, or no National Day Signing Day coverage out of them this time around, and then certainly, hey, it's more effective if you talk to them than I talk to them. So bug them on social media. We'll bring them on here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. All right, so the watch party starts. I'm going to check out the live chat and then dive into some work here. And I'm going to listen to these guys just like you, Tom Luganbill, Trevor Maddich and company. Tom Luganbill, of course, he's one of the best in the business at his recruiting analysis and breakdown of what's going on out there. All right, let's strike up the live chat and see what you guys have. This obviously not being necessarily a primetime event, unfortunately, we won't have the type of coverage for this or the type of traffic, at least live, that I'm used to with 60, 80, 100 people online throughout because, hey, most of you have to work. You've got a job, like me. But when you've got days off to kill, then you can go this route as well. So I'll see if anybody is on the live chat. We see that there are very few. And again, I have seen the numbers difference from doing live streams during the day versus prime time, and it's not even close. So I get it. This is going to be something that hopefully people are going to check out a little bit later, and you guys can enjoy the watch party and the conversation amongst yourselves. Let's see what you guys have. And then just so I can better prepare myself for discussion and debate and analysis later. And so I've got the information to ask the right questions later throughout all these records. I'm going to kick back and watch National Signing Day and be taking notes right along with you. This is basically today a little service for you guys to be able to enjoy the chat. Deep Barrett's on the line. Remember, Texas went from top 10 to top 3 late last year. Yes, they did. They put on the big rush last year. Tom Herman's first full class. DeAndre's on the line. Good to see you guys. Maybe Thomas as well. Wandale Robinson signed his letter of intent to Nebraska over Kentucky. So that is official. Thank you. Peter Young, I have yet to see your name on the live chat or anywhere on Mark Rogers TV, so I appreciate it. You must be a new viewer. Noah Kane to Texas, Trey Sanders to Georgia. Patrick Starr, I've yet to see your name, so it's good. It's good to have you here at Mark Rogers TV. I rushed finals to see this. Patrick, please, I hope you did your very best with your finals. And hopefully when you say see this, I am referring to the folks on ESPN. Texas will win the Big 12 next year. 2, hardwired to self-destruction, trade to the Swamp Boys. Deep Barrett, hook 'em. 1-1 this season. Okay, what else do you guys have? Anything for me? Real nice setup. Lloyd Grissom, this is the first time I've seen your handle at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Welcome. Many of you, I find out that even though it's the first time that I've seen you make a comment to a live chat or to a video, that you've been watching for quite some time. Going to be a horrible day, Bama fans. Oh, yes. Okay, Nebraska's up to 21 signees so far, according to Navy Thomas. Steve Barrett, Michigan surprises Texas. Yeah, Prince, good morning. Roots Andriano, good morning. Everybody, good morning. Thanks for joining the watch party. Nick Saban's got a final. All right, we've got a live announcement coming up. Again, lock it in on ESPN2 and then ESPNU for all your coverage and listen to these guys analyze it. You know, I really don't know what I should be doing in regards to I don't normally do this, broadcast somebody else's broadcast. That's not necessarily sitting well with me. I assume that you guys are watching this, that you are watching ESPN2 right now, that you were just joining the live chat. And of course, you have nothing necessarily to come here to hear me to say today, especially since I'm only half awake. So I am setting the stage for our records and team reports throughout the day. So be on the lookout for those. I'm going to keep the live chat. Peter, thanks. I appreciate you watching throughout the season. Enjoyed the channel. God bless you. God bless you as well, Peter. I appreciate that comment. Jeremiah Cradell, the 61st rated player in the ESPN 300 between Oregon and Oklahoma. And we've got to hear his speech before he makes his announcement. Okay, he made it brief. That's good. Jeremiah signs with Cradell. Okay, Oklahoma fans, you gotta. I know what that means. It's obviously hook 'em upside down, but you know, anybody who makes their logo, their symbol, their chant, their mantra, downgrading somebody else and not just amplifying their own brand, I kind of question that. And I'm sure the university or the OU, Oklahoma University, did not sign off on that. All right, folks. Let's see. How should we do this? I'm not going to broadcast ESPN all day. I don't think that's really the way to go with this. But you guys are going to see team reports throughout the day. I'm going to leave the live chat up. I'm going to check it from time to time to see. And I see, obviously, I didn't expect many people to be on. People are working and have their lives throughout the day. Anything close to what we have typically for a live stream, which some of our latter live streams, I'm looking forward to our bowl and college football playoff live streams because I expect those to be enormous because some of the more recent live streams have hit triple digits. So I appreciate that. And I was going to mention there is there is the phone line. Nobody's going to be able to hear you. I don't have my mic set up, but I will answer a phone call. All right, it's Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Hey, it's Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, but understand that probably nobody can hear you. I'm not set up for phone calls right now, but who's on the line? Oh, that's okay. That's okay. I don't really have a good setup for this because I do not want to be broadcasting somebody else's broadcast. I just do this for an effect to start, and then I'm going to cut you guys loose on this live chat. I'm going to be doing team reports all day. How you doing?
Good. I was looking at Oregon's recruit class. They got two of the top players out of California, and that's just amazing, man.
It is amazing to me. Chip Kelly didn't recruit that well. He produced that well on the field, but he didn't recruit that well. So I don't know what they're doing up there to bring recruits to what's been a pretty marginal team for the past few years.
Right, that's just amazing. I know this kid just turned down Oregon to go to Oklahoma, but I mean, I'm just amazed that Oregon got two of the top recruits out of California. I mean, I know it's not that shocking, but it's still amazing to me. But we'll see how they turn out. I got this on the fifth.
They must have hired the right guy, Mario Cristobal.
Oh, yes, right. That makes me wonder about Willie Taggart now. I see all these commits be committing from Florida State, and I'm not surprised about Miami too. Miami's struggling with their recruitment also.
Well,
I saw.
Yeah, they saw the way things played out this year, and that's got to turn off a lot of guys in terms of their trust of that particular coach being able to win big.
Right. I'm waiting to see if Clemson will get some big-time offensive line, but it don't look like it. I think they saw 26 people. They're number 7 in the country as far as recruiting right now, which I kind of shocked, but it is what it is. I don't think Clemson turns in good offensive linemen into the NFL. Hyatt might be the best one that you see, but in the last couple of years, I can't think of the offensive lineman that came out of Clemson that's in the NFL right now. I think Battle might have been in there for a little bit, but I'm just amazed how small that Clemson's offensive linemen are. Something that's going to have to improve next year. Cam Jordan, I know they're going to have somebody left tackle this year. And he was the number one player out of Ohio. To see how he turned out.
Yep.
I know they lose their center. But it's going to be interesting to see what they do at the offensive line position next couple of years. Because defensive line and every other position, even defensive back, I think is pretty good. But Clemson's going to have their trouble with the offensive line. And that's where it started. You got to have somebody brought for Trevor Lawrence and ETM and Feaster and all those guys, no matter how talented they are.
You get another big defensive lineman today.
Yeah, 6'2", 293 or something like that out of Florida.
Yeah.
But I just want to say what's up, man. You know, I always enjoy the show. I got to go to work at the prison tonight. So hopefully, while I'm doing my work at work, I can tune in to YouTube and check out, see what these other schools are doing, and listen to the other talk shows. I'm kind of depressed, though.
Why is that?
All the coverage is always on Alabama, Georgia.
Yeah.
And they deserve it. I mean, Georgia's doing an amazing job at recruiting, but I mean, there's other teams out there. They haven't won that yet. At Alabama, they always get great players, but my question is, there are other teams out there. I think A&M got a pretty good class. You don't even hear about them, so they'll play. I mean, I follow recruits like crazy because that's the lifeblood of college football. But you know, that's gonna tell you what some teams are projecting to do in the future. Like we think Oregon's gonna be pretty good. They're gonna come on their way. But I don't get why they don't give more time to other people.
Well, DeAndre. Yeah, I'm going to be here from noon to midnight, and I'm going to be talking to people every half hour. So I'm going to get to as many teams as I possibly can.
Right. And I've been listening. I've been in my office saying, hey, what Mark talking about today? You know, there's some people I don't want to hear about. Some people are like, I don't care. One quick question before I let you go.
Sure.
Where do you think Justin Fields going to end up at?
Oh, boy. So we're hearing Oklahoma, Ohio State. Who's the other school? There's a third school.
Florida State.
Florida State. Yes. Thank you. So in terms of a style of offense, Willie Taggart seems to be a good fit in terms of what I would think that he would want to run. Although the offensive styles from those three programs now are so similar. And Ryan Day might be able to sell him on how he develops quarterbacks. Of course, Lincoln Riley might be the best play caller in college football. If it were me, I'd probably trying to take my scarlet and gray glasses off. I'd probably go to Oklahoma. I would go to Florida State third because I just wouldn't trust that they're going to win big, especially with that monster in the same division. Where if I go to Oklahoma or Ohio State, I just figure, hey, I'm going to the best school in the conference.
Another issue that I have is that I don't know why, just like we saw with Clips, and I think we saw with Texas A&M with Solomon, all these quarterbacks end up going to the same school. Clipper had the #1 quarterback back-to-back years, Johnson and Hunter Johnson and Lawrence, and then you had, I think Simmons was pretty high, the kid that transferred to Johnson State. But I don't know why all these guys want to backload to these schools. It's not like when Florida State was doing it, and they were like, "Hey, you redshirt for a year, learn the system. Then you got 2 years on your own. Then you go in." Remember they had Danny Cadell and a couple other guys, and they'll come in like 2 years, or they 2 years, and they'll start playing. Then their senior year, they'll go on to the NFL. It don't work like that no more. So I don't know why some of these guys are keep going to these same to the same schools all the time, and they know that they might not have a chance to play, that they have to transfer. I just don't get it, and that's why I couldn't understand. I know him and Lawrence was 1A, 1B as far as being the best players, but go somewhere where you're going to play. It's going to give you a chance. So Vaughn was a top 5 player. I mean, one of the top quarterbacks to come out too. And people said, well, they want to compete. Yeah, that's true, but your main goal is to get to the NFL too. I mean, I hope your main goal is to win games. I know it's a team sport, but at that position, the quarterback, there's only one person that gets out there at a time. Not like offensive line. Georgia have all these offensive linemen. They can put 2 or 3. Go play tight end, and we're gonna run a elephant package or something like that. And
sure,
stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, to transfer as a quarterback is obviously a very tricky thing to try to determine your abilities versus the roster and who they're about to sign versus, like you say, if you're an offensive lineman. We saw one of the best offensive linemen in the country go from Rice to Oklahoma this past offseason, but you've got no concerns there. If you're really good, well, you're going to be in the rotation. You're definitely going to make the starting 5, and if not, they play 7 or 8 guys, you're going to play versus and be able to show yourself for the pro prospects, for the pro scouts. But if you're the quarterback, yeah, we've seen where guys like Jacob Eason might be bouncing around and not playing anywhere. And a number of guys that may not necessarily, once they make their transfer decision, have made the best choice based on who gets selected and recruited later. Yeah, it's a difficult thing. But any of these guys can go anywhere, and as long as they get the starting job, can gain enough attention from NFL scouts. I don't think that's a concern for Justin Fields. Maybe in terms of showcasing his skills, but in terms of getting attention, any one of those 3 schools obviously is not going to be an issue in terms of the NFL draft.
And I know, like, some of those guys, I look at them, and I know they might not want to play up in the cold, but I'll be like, once you go to Illinois, I mean, Lexington Smith has the NFL background, and, and I'm not saying that Illinois is that talented, but, I mean, I think they got much talent at quarterback. I mean, go somewhere where you're going to play. I mean, you sit around that guy who just took the team to the national championship game last year. I don't think he's going to push him out. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I just don't get it myself. But you might be right. Well, Mark, you have a good day. I'll get ready for work, and I'll be listening throughout the game when I could speak over there. And I appreciate the call. Let me call in.
Thanks, DeAndre. I appreciate it. You have a great day.
All right.
So hopefully I'll take some calls later. Again, I'm going to be recording from 12:30 on through who knows how late tonight, at least 10 o'clock tonight. And maybe we'll do a live stream. I don't know, after recording for 12 hours. Whether we'll do a live stream and take your calls later. But we will be deep into it here during the bowl season and college football playoffs. I need to take this in so I know what's going on. I don't know exactly how to position this for the next hour and a half to 2 hours. I'm going to check out the live coverage on ESPN2 as well. So you guys, again, keep in mind, keep it locked in right here. Team reports from Tennessee, Alabama, Oklahoma, Arizona State, Georgia, Ole Miss, USC, Florida State, West Virginia, Penn State, Washington, Kentucky, UCLA, Arizona, Boston College, Ohio State, on and on, Florida, Vandy, Pitt, Oklahoma State, Stanford, Virginia Tech, and maybe more. All right, guys, I don't believe that I'm going to keep this set up with the TV on here. You guys can stay in the live chat and talk to each other as you watch whatever you're watching, whether it's ESPN or something else online, and tracking National Signing Day. Keep it locked in here for the notifications. I will check the live chat from time to time, but obviously we don't have a great traffic here during the middle of the day on the live chat. So not much to respond to here. Enjoy National Signing Day. I will be all over the place and will be bringing you the nation here on the early edition of the National Signing Day on the Voice of College Football.
Throughout the course of the year. To your point, in a package, in a series setting, maybe continue to develop and add a little different dimension. That did not happen. Doesn't mean that it can't happen for somebody else. The one area that I would look at with this stuff, and if you take a look at it from a pro football perspective, if Jake Fromm were to declare early after next year, you would still be looking at Justin Fields staying at the University of Georgia as 2 full seasons, a minimum of 24 games. That is more than enough to be evaluated, to be scrutinized, to put yourself in contention to have a career post-college. So for Justin Fields to make this decision, he can't be taking it lightly. And now he's going to come down to what are the options available to him. Now, when something like this happens, and I think this is interesting to note as we came into today, over the last 72 hours, guys, you are looking at his name going into the transfer portal. So what does Georgia do? Georgia now is immediately blanketing the country to find an answer. The first answer they thought was going to be Joe Yellen, as Arizona State and Herm Edwards right now have three, probably two of them are going to remain a quarterback, but three ESPN 300 quarterbacks that are currently in their class. So if Joe Yellen's receiving the overtures from the University of Georgia, but then DeJuan Mathis today is the one that flips from Ohio State, the trickle-down effect and how that affects other programs, how that affects Arizona State, all because of Justin Fields, gives you an idea of just how critical the quarterback position is and what panic can set in when you're having to make a move late.
Oh, no doubt. And you think about Justin Fields, and if he does transfer, and Ohio State is a school that's mentioned as a possibility. Right. And what happens with Tate Martell? I mean, the trickle-down effect.
And if you sit out in redshirt, there's no telling what's going to happen a year in advance.
That's right. And speaking of years, we go back years, and this is something that we see all of the time. Quarterbacks ranked top 2 at their position, whether it's pocket passer or dual threat. Look at these names. Remember, they just don't stay with the program because of extenuating circumstances. Could be a coaching change. Could be you don't win the job.
And if you're going to leave, you better have a really good reason to. A terrific place to go. Because everybody thinks of being the next Russell Wilson, or now more recently, being the next Baker Mayfield, who transferred from Texas Tech to Oklahoma, won a Heisman Trophy, or Kyler Murray, who started at A&M, ended up at Oklahoma, won the Heisman Trophy. And I'm sure every quarterback thinks, I'm going to be that next guy. But as a cautionary moment, I think they should step back and realize that most of these guys didn't work out like they thought it would.
Right. Yeah, there's no doubt. And listen, nobody has a crystal ball. Everybody wants to play right away, and they're conditioned to think that they can. Not everybody's capable of it. Sometimes development is the most important part of the positions.
The quarterback is the first to commit and sign, and sometimes the first to leave if things don't go well with their respective college teams. So tonight, see some college football action. San Diego State and Ohio. The Fighting Frank Solich is out of the back. That's at 8 Eastern tonight on ESPN, the DXL Frisco Bowl, ESPN, and the ESPN app. So you can watch it anywhere. More players announcing today. 7 of the top 150 recruiting battles between Bama, Georgia, Florida versus Miami, Penn State versus Texas. Talk to Craig Hubbard, get the latest on some of the prospects today. And we'll check in Austin. Tom Herman trying to make it back-to-back top 10 classes. We'll examine where the present and the future lie with the Horns.
Breathe freely fast with Vicks Sinex.
Congestion scar.
I can breathe again. I can breathe again. Oh.
Vicks Sinex. Breathe on.
This holiday gives the gift of Peloton.
How does you know?
Presented by Northwestern Mutual, a return to tradition in Pasadena as the Pac-12 champion Huskies battle the Big Ten champion Buckeyes in the grand debut of them all. Washington, Ohio State, New Year's Day at 5 on
That was great.
Yeah, I don't think I can eat another.
Cane's Hawaiian rolls just may be the best part of your holiday meal.
I knew these would be good.
I'm gonna make my decision about where I feel the most comfortable and where I feel like home at. So I'm gonna be going to the University of Alabama. I'm headed to the University of South Carolina. I think I want to be a Florida State Seminole.
It's a tough decision. I got both schools here, but I'm gonna go Roll Tide Roll.
University of Alabama.
Ooh, big LSU.
That's about it. I'll be going to college at the University of Southern California.
I had this dream since I was 7. Now I'm dreaming telling. I can see it now. The fans screaming, yelling as I'm walking out that tunnel. The wind held.
For the next 3 to 4 years, I'll be furthering my education on football at the University of Michigan.
What moment will be added to that montage today? Got 8 more announcements, 7 of which are in the ESPN 300, about a half hour away from number 4 running back in the class, Noah Cain, making his decision known. Trey Sanders as well, top uncommitted running back. Craig Howard, national recruiting coordinator for ESPN, joining us now. Hobbs, good to see you again. You've called a bunch of high school games this year. You've seen a few of these players. Who stands out to you?
Well, Matt, yeah, I've been lucky to go around the country with the high school showcase, see a lot of the prospects in person. One of the teams that we had this year that is loaded with talent is IMG Academy, and 3 of those prospects announcing on air with us today. You mentioned the most recent one coming up is going to be Noah Cain, a top 5 running back. He's a player, even though Alabama's not in his final. He reminds me a bit of the Crimson Tide running back Damian Harris. Does a really nice job of running behind his pads, good feet, good ball skills. But I also like about him is he's a complete back in that he's willing and able to be a blocker. On 3rd down, he'll step up there, he'll take on the blitz. He's willing to be a good teammate. When you're looking at these guys who are high-profile guys that get a lot of love, especially at those skill positions, are they willing to contribute when they're still not getting the football? When I see Noah Cain, I really see a player who's just an all-around football player. A lot of national appeal there. Penn State, Texas, a few SEC teams in the mix. Another one is his teammate and the number 2 ranked running back in the nation, and that is Trey Sanders. Trey Sanders also brings a lot of versatility to the running back position. He's got a big frame, tremendous length. He's kind of a glider, a slasher as he runs. Does a really nice job with his vision, but outstanding ball skills as well. Listed as a running back, he can very easily flex out, play at the wide receiver position, and be very dangerous in his screen game. This is a player who's got impact-type ability. We'll see several SEC schools in the mix. And well, we're talking about 2 running backs. Well, somebody had a block for those guys. And luckily, they've got one of the best offensive tackles in the nation, IMG, and that's Evan Neal. He's coming up a little bit later this afternoon. It'll be interesting to see where he lands. But wherever he does go, they're going to get an offensive tackle who's really worked hard to better himself. About a year ago, he was up to almost 400 pounds. And yes, he's about 6'7", but that is too big. He's really worked hard to drop about 40, 50 pounds. And when Evan Neal is operating at his maximum, he's a potential 5-star at the tackle position. Really good feet, good knee bend. If he continues to work and manage that weight, he could be a plug-and-play type player at that offensive tackle position.
Speaking of that position, how would you rate this crop of offensive linemen here for 2019?
It's outstanding. To me, this offensive line class is comparable, Matt, to that 2016 group of defensive linemen with Nick Bosa, Rashawn Gary, Dexter Lawrence, Ed Oliver. Now, these guys, when they step on campus, they won't be able to make the same type of impact in the stat column like those defensive linemen will. They'll kind of go into anonymity being offensive linemen, but they're still very crucial. And I think if you look at the players, you've got 5 offensive tackles amongst the top 10, 6 offensive linemen that are among the 5 stars, And, you know, every year it's a bit cyclical, and Tommy will tell you this too. There's some positions that are stronger than others, but I think any program in 2019 class looking for an offensive tackle, there's a lot of great ones out there. I really think this group can potentially be special. Again, Evan Neal announcing in just a few hours over on ESPNU when we switch from ESPN2. Thank you, Greg. Good to chat with you again. Again, those top 10 players, 3 of the top 10 are uncommitted at this point. Those offensive and defensive linemen, it just permeates that top 10.
And my man here sitting next to me is going to love this, all right? We seem to be the outlier when it comes to top 10, top 15, top 20 rankings of players overall, because everybody's under this illusion that it's all about flash, the running back, the wide receiver, and, you know, the linebacker. Those guys are standing on every street corner. The guys that win you championships are the guys up front on both sides of the ball, and they are very difficult to come by, and they're very difficult to come by in droves of numbers. And that's why you see the common denominator amongst the premier teams in college football. They are superior to their opponents up front, not only with starting line guys, but in terms of overall depth. And in this version, Trevor, of our ESPN 300, there's not a single skill guy in the top 10.
I went to visit Texas and Coach Tom Herman. And he said that there has never been a college football national champion. When after winning the national championship game, talking to the media, the coach said, "We won this game because we out-finessed them." Never happened.
That's true. It's never happened. I never will.
And so, but that brings the question, though. I mean, there's outstanding individual linemen, offensive and defensive, in the Pac-12 and the Big 12 and in different places in the group of 5. But the SEC seems to have more of them and more of them in depth.
Yes.
Why is that?
Correct. It's the footprint and the recruiting pool by which they are drawing from. For whatever reason, the populace and where the landscape has shifted has moved southeast. Whereas in the old Midwest, in the 70s, 80s, maybe early 90s, when you get a lot of the mills and the factories and some of those places shut down, where did people move? They moved south. And it increased the population for whatever reason. And I don't know if there's any real true answer. We actually study the U.S. national consensus a lot to figure out where the pockets of the people are coming from. Which of those pockets are football playing public? You know, for example, if you go out to California, you got 38 million people, but you also have a heavy Asian population, a heavy Hispanic population, don't necessarily have those types of numbers playing football. All right. So you start to look at all those things and work it into how the player pool is stronger in one area than it is somewhere else.
I kind of tend to think, too, that in the South, they have Baby Bubba.
Yeah.
And they take some etouffee and they puree it, put it in a sippy cup, and instead of mother's milk, it's gumbo. Right? I think they're just growing bigger down there somehow.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, like 2/3 of the ESPN 300 are located in that SEC footprint. We showed you that map. Florida, Georgia, Texas, that's where they are. You know this one, Trevor, the Bad Boy Motors Gasparilla Bowl, Marshall, South Florida. Make the pick over the ground. Make the pick.
The pick is South Florida, but if I'm in that bowl, my pick for swag is a 72-inch zero-turn motor.
I don't think they can fit that in a bowl.
Electric?
Oh, no.
No, gas powered?
Full. Actually, no, make it diesel.
Okay.
They make it diesel.
I don't think they fit that in the swag bag. Texas, can they make it back-to-back top 10 classes? Competition for those Texas recruits is pretty stiff. We'll get a report from College Station as Jimbo Fisher works on a top 5 class. Hang with us. It's National Signing Day.
Do you suffer aches and pains from poor circulation? Are tired, aching legs stopping you from enjoying life? You don't have to suffer any longer. Give the gift of health these holidays with Revited Medic Circulation Booster, a new drug-free home treatment cleared by the FDA that significantly improves circulation in your legs and feet. Just one relaxing session a day, and you'll feel back in control. Medical conditions, age, or inactivity can cause poor circulation. The result, aches and pains that ruin your everyday life. Only Revited Medic's patented wide pulse waveforms stimulate the nerve endings in your feet to get your lower leg muscles pumping and actively improve your circulation, relieve your aches and pains, and strengthen your leg muscles.
I have tried everything to get rid of my pain, and nothing has worked like Revitive. And even better, it's not a drug.
My granddaughter asked me to dance with her. Well, I can't turn down my granddaughter, right? So I danced 2 long dances with her, and I would never have been able to do that without Revitive.
It makes a big difference, quality of life. It's nice to have that filling back and have the control back.
Award-winning design makes Revited Medic easy to use. Just place your feet on the foot pads and increase the intensity using the remote control. In minutes, you'll be enjoying relief as Revited's clinically proven impulses take your aches and pains away. Discover why 4 out of 5 people who try Revited keep it, because it works. Try Revited risk-free today with our 60-day money-back guarantee and free shipping. If Revited Medic doesn't relieve your aches and pains, return it and we'll refund the purchase price and even pay the return shipping. That's how confident we are in the power of Revited. Call 1-800-952-4203 or go to tryrevited.com. Call or click now.
You don't have to live with pain. You just have to take the leap and try Revited.
You're watching the National Signing Day special, presented by Nissan.
Texas A&M, the bright football complex, things are looking very bright today as they try to put the finishing touches on what would be the highest ranked class for Texas A&M in the ESPN 300 era. Their head coach, Jimbo Fisher, entering his second season, first full recruiting cycle there at Texas A&M. You can see the impact that makes, actually having some time to recruit. Jimbo Fisher, 16th last year, right now at second place in terms of the class ranking. Sam Conn Jr. is in College Station. Sam, what is the latest with Aggie recruiting?
Well, you said it, the number 2 class in the country. 23 signees expected today, 19 so far in this morning. So a pretty smooth morning for Jimbo Fisher and company. Probably no signee more important in this class, though, than 4-star quarterback Zach Calzada. There was some drama late in his recruitment in the last few days after Justin Fields, the former Georgia quarterback, announced that he was going to transfer. The Bulldogs coach decided to try and actively recruit him and try and get him in the class late. So Jimbo Fisher and company had to try and fend off the overtures from the in-state Bulldogs to get Calzada to come to Texas A&M. It's a guy that Fisher loves. He said he loves his arm talent, his toughness, his athleticism. He thinks that he's going to be a pro guy and, to quote Fisher, make $1 zillion. So they love the quarterback they have in this class. But they also got, like you said, the number 2 class in the country, a ton of in-state commitments. Jimbo Fisher's first year recruiting the state of Texas, 17 of the 23 guys that they'll sign today in-state prospects. So that was huge for them to come and get overtures and get the guys from in the state of Texas. No more bigger than Kenyon Green, the offensive tackle, number 3 in the ESPN 300. Green is a huge prospect for them, someone that Fisher feels like is going to be a top 10 pick one day. They've got a ton of high-level guys from in the state, most of the top prospects from in the state. So far, so good in Aggie land for Jimbo Fisher and company. Matt?
Thank you, Sam. Again, 12 in the ESPN 300. All 12 are from the state of Texas. Texas A&M hanging out there at number 2. Look at the SEC power at the top. Alabama, Texas A&M, and Georgia. And you see there at number 8, those in-state battles between the Aggies and the Longhorns. Texas looking for back-to-back top 5 classes. No team in the Big 12 has more commits from ESPN 300 prospects than the Longhorns. Alex Lowe joining us now from Austin with the latest on the Longhorns. Alex, what do you got?
Matt, last year the story of signing day for Texas was defense. Today they are loading up on offense, bringing in a number of the top-ranked players in the nation, including Tyler Johnson, the highest-ranked offensive tackle Texas has ever signed. How about Jake Smith, a top 75 wide receiver, just the 3rd Longhorn in history to win the Gatorade National Player of the Year award in high school. At tight end, they bring in the number 2 ranked tight end in the nation, Braden Liebrock, and at quarterback, they grab the number 2 dual threat in the country, Roschon Johnson. This is a kid who averaged 60 touchdowns per season, half of those running in high school. So a number of big-name signees on offense. They are still waiting, by the way, for the announcements of Noah Cain and Trey Sanders to see if by some chance Texas is mentioned by one of those two.
Currently, Texas and Oklahoma have 20 combined ESPN 300 commits. The rest of the Big 12, just 4. Actually, that number up to 21 ESPN 300 commits as we look at the latest out of the Big 12. TCU hanging out there at 31. Baylor, Iowa State, and West Virginia lose.
Yeah, Baylor, sneaky good class. Iowa State is going to have another sneaky good class. Well, I want to go back to Texas for a moment because a little bit of a shift in the process for Tom Herman and his staff in relationship to the direction that they're going with this class. Of those 11 verbal commitments that you see there for the Texas Longhorns, almost 40% of them come outside of the state of Texas. So Longhorns casting a wider net, getting into Arizona. They got one of my favorite players in this class in Jake Smith, who I think is going to be a dynamic weapon for them on offense. But then they dip down into Georgia, and you get a guy like Kenyatta Watson at a premier position on the defensive corner position. Darian Brown, a running back again out of Georgia. To Gabriel Floyd, a linebacker amongst other linebackers and tight ends out of the state of California. So Texas seeming to expand their brand outside of the state.
The thing about Texas, too, is that they need to, because A&M has become more of a dominant recruiter. And I would ask you this, because when I went down to visit Texas A&M in the offseason, the word I heard most often about Jimbo Fisher was enthusiasm, excitement. He brought such a momentum to that place, such a belief to the place. And I think that because of that, that's one of the reasons that the recruiting class right now is so strong. But I've got to wonder if that combined with the SEC brand is turning Texas into an SEC county.
Yes, because of the perception on behalf of kids right now as it relates to the SEC. So you combine Jimbo Fisher, the approach, the background of winning, having won a national championship, with the resources available through the university and the conference affiliation, and that's a tough mountain to climb if you're the competitors out of the Big 12 right now.
But then the flip side of that is, if you're Texas and you're negative recruiting against A&M, one thing that I would think they would be saying is, yeah, you can go to A&M and you can be the 7th best team in the country and be 4th in your own division, right? Which, by the way, happened to Arkansas a few years ago when Aaron McFadden and Felix Jones were there. Whereas Texas, to get where they want to go, basically right now, they've got to beat Oklahoma, and they don't want to win against Oklahoma this year.
And then you could be in the college football playoff.
And so I'm thinking that would be a pretty powerful recruiting pitch.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's more top-heavy. That could be a bad thing. It could be a very good thing, depending on...
Got to come up with something to recruit to.
Yeah, there's no doubt. There's no doubt. We got a lot more to get to. Lincoln Riley is scheduled to join us, getting ready for the college football playoff and trying to lock down a top 10 class. We'll ask him how he's balancing both. And we can ask Brian Kelly the same question. We'll try to rephrase it so it doesn't sound as repetitive. We'll check in with the head coach of Notre Dame as they try to lock up a good class as well. And Noah Kane, one of the top running backs in the country of IMG Academy, is going to make his announcement in about 10 minutes. Hang with us. It's next.
This isn't a liner. Well, to be clear, it's an invisible liner from Smile Direct Club. Our liners take teeth like these and transform them into those. They discreetly take this and turn it into that. We send your liners directly to you. And in an average of 6 months, you can have a lifetime supply of confidence. Join more than 250,000 satisfied runners who got a smile they love for only $80 a month at SmileDirectClub.com.
What's Saturday for? College football. And December 29th is the Saturday of all Saturdays. Why? Because it's the college football playoff. First, it's Dabo's dominant defense versus the resurgent Fighting Irish of Notre Dame. Then you got Saban, Tua, and the Tide. This is Kyler Murray and the explosive Sooners. 2 can't miss, can't look away playoff semifinals. Clemson, Notre Dame, and 4. Alabama, Oklahoma at 8. Saturday, December 29th on ESPN.
How many years have I been making these? Too many to count. You didn't have to do that. I know. I wanted to. Because, you know, these never last long.
It's not fair.
Honey, a little space could be good for you both.
Exactly.
When you move, you can only control so much. But move with Optimum and stay connected during your move with over 2 million Optimum Wi-Fi hotspots.
You have got to be kidding me.
Move with us to get our most exclusive movers offer, and we'll upgrade you with our latest technology.
LY.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're crossing the top of the hour. 11 in the East, 931 players have already signed as those national letters of intent continue to roll in. What percentage of that class is? That's 33%. Again, more than 70% of the 2018 class signed during the early signing period. We'll see if this year is anything like that. This was what it looked like at 10 a.m. We'll hit 11 a.m. and a little flip-flop there with Oklahoma and Texas because of the commitment of one of the top athletes, Jeremiah Friedel. That's the commitment. They have not received the national letter of intent. Lincoln Riley, the head coach of Oklahoma, joins us now, so we can't talk about him specifically. But Lincoln, thanks for joining us. And would you just at least characterize what this morning has been like for you in terms of National Signing Day?
Well, thanks for having me on. Yeah, it's been a great morning. You know, it's obviously an important kind of time for our program, you know, getting ready to play in the college football playoff, just coming off another Big 12 championship, and then certainly, you know, building for our future, which we're so excited about. So it's been a fun morning. There's been a lot of great additions. Certainly had a big jolt of energy here a few minutes ago, but proud of all these guys that have signed, and certainly thrilled for what the future looks like for Oklahoma football.
How have you and your staff juggled having to prepare for signing day and prepare for the playoff?
Well, we got some good practice at it last year. Yeah. You know, I think last year was different for everybody with the early signing period, and then certainly with all that goes on in preparing for a playoff game. It's a lot, but I think we were a little bit more prepared going in this year. Knew what to expect. Our guys have been, you know, really been putting in the hours. You know, trying to balance getting ready to play a great Alabama team and then getting ready to sign one of the great classes in the country. So it's been fun. But we'll look forward to having this day behind us and getting full speed ahead on the semifinal game.
Obviously, Lincoln, you have not named a permanent defensive coordinator yet. Just wonder, what are those challenges when the staff is not entirely solidified when you're trying to recruit a player on that side of the football?
Well, I think players have confidence that this is Oklahoma, you know, and there's a long standard of success, a long pattern of success, and I think they have confidence in the people here that are making decisions. I think they have confidence in, you know, where our program's at. The great thing is we feel like we can continue to get so much better, and so, you know, that's kind of the excitement within these walls right now. And I think as our players get around us, they feel that they know where we're headed, and you know, these guys see the vision and they want to be a part of it.
Last thing, Lincoln, what stands out to you the most about this crop of future Sooners?
Honestly, how unselfish they've all been. I mean, we've got some of the elite players in the country coming, and a big selling point is these guys wanted to be able to play and win championships together, and that's our great place to start. You know, we've found a great balance here between everything is always going to be team first here. That's always going to be the mentality. That's why this place has been so successful. But we certainly want guys to have individual goals. And if you've seen the last few years, our guys have been able to accomplish a number of those. And so it's a great balance there. And this class has as much potential as any we've brought in. Ton of firepower, ton of potential great leaders, great people that we're bringing in. And the biggest thing is they want to come compete together and be the very best.
And including Spencer Rattler, #1 quarterback, number 17 overall on our ESPN 300. Congratulations on the big announcement earlier. Maybe we'll catch up with you again when you can actually talk about it. Thanks, Lincoln, and good luck in the playoff.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
It's Lincoln Riley, head coach of the Oklahoma Sooners, and you look at how this team was built as they head toward the college football playoff. How that Texas talent signed 32 players from Texas from 2015 to 2018, compared to 18 from the state of Oklahoma. Yeah, that'll get you the golden hat. Murray and Mayfield, how about that? The similarities between these two that transferred from Texas schools, both won the Heisman. Murray was the 13th ranked prospect in the 15 class. Mayfield was the 238th ranked player in the state of Texas. You look at transfers, Murray, Marquise Hollywood Brown, offensive lineman Ben Powers, all first-team Big 12 were transfers. Brown and Powers were junior college transfers. So when you look at recruiting class rankings and all that, certainly, Tom, doesn't factor in other ways to build a roster through transfer.
Yeah, you're recruiting grad transfers, you're recruiting mid-year transfers, but I think the most interesting answer that Lincoln Riley gave about recruiting to a staff that isn't quite yet complete is that the weight of the program carries more value than one individual. And essentially what he's referring to is at Oklahoma, we can withstand maybe some of those question marks because of the status of the program. And that's important. Not everybody has that luxury. I think Ohio State has it as well, but I think that's a great luxury to have.
And they've made a big push toward recruiting defensive players. Last year, yes, they had 13 defensive signees to 9 offensive signees. 6 of those defensive guys were early enrollees. And really, when you look at the way this team is constructed, if their defense can improve from heinous to decent,
yeah,
the team as a whole will be fantastic. And they've been in the playoffs each of the last 2 years.
Correct.
So we're not talking about an Alabama defense. We're talking just being competent. Yeah.
Yes.
6 ESPN 300 defenders, which is big. What about not just Oklahoma, but Texas, the Big 12 as a whole? Tom, how do they improve from that player pool on the defensive side of the ball?
It's a challenge when you have limited numbers, and you brought it up with the Pac-12 earlier, that you might have a great player on this team or that team along the defensive front. What you don't have is depth, and for whatever reason, including the state of Texas and the states that border Texas outside of Louisiana, you don't have this wealth of defensive line prospects. And if you do have some defensive line prospects, in many cases, they're not college-ready players. They're going to be on the developmental path where you'd likely redshirt them and then bring them along, and maybe they end up becoming great players for you down the road. What I like about this Oklahoma class is of the defensive players that they've got in the top half of the class, most of them are in the defensive front 7. And that tells me an awful lot about the strides that they're making on that side of the football.
The thing, though, is that you got to know who you are.
Yeah.
And if you're one of those teams, Georgia, Texas A&M, Alabama, that can recruit depth on the offensive and defensive lines, do it, great. But if you're not, that doesn't mean you can't win.
Sure.
That just means you have to find that one guy on the perimeter that can beat their one guy that you can put out there, that one pass rusher that you can move all around. Mm-hmm. It means you've got to be creative, and it means you have to develop. I think that's one thing that Iowa State has been so good at.
Oh, absolutely.
They've got more talent than they get credit for. I mean, they complain that they're all poor with talent. They're not. But one thing they do, though, is that they don't miss on recruits as often as some other schools, right?
Because of development.
Right. Because of the way they pick guys that are the kind of guys that will grow, that can be developed because they want to be developed.
Right.
And then they've got enough talent that development turns them into good college football players. Maybe not great, but good. And what that does is it creates the middle of the core of that team. It creates your rotation and depth. It creates your special teams, things like that. Now you have an advantage in those places against teams that might bring in classes that have some guys that are really highly thought of that you miss on.
There's a reason Iowa State continues to upset the big boys. So they're in the Big 12 working on a top 40 class. Texas, Oklahoma working on top 10 classes. There's another college football playoff team doing the same. Notre Dame, how they were built. About this, 27 different states from 2015 to 2018 they recruited from, more than any other Power 5 program. 10 ESPN 300 defensive recruits signed from that era, the fewest among the college football playoff teams. How about doing more with less, at least on that side of the ball, and proof that you don't need a top 10 quarterback in order to make the college football playoff? You got Tua, who was number 1 in 17, Trevor Lawrence, who was number 1 in 18, Kyler Murray, who was number 1 in 15, and Ian Book, number 22, pocket passing quarterback in the class of 2016. Tom Van Haren joins us now. Tom, what more can you tell us about Notre Dame and their recruiting efforts?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned it. They've done more with less, and I think that speaks to this class, and I think it speaks to the Notre Dame program overall, that they've had some dips and valleys, some highs and lows throughout the past few years, but Brian Kelly has been able to keep this program on pace, get them back to the college football playoff. And you look at, they've lost coordinators along the way as well, and I think a really, really strong mark for coaches with recruiting and with on-field production is how you can sustain losing coordinators to other programs and keep going, and Notre Dame has done that.
And let's ask the head coach himself about how he's done that. Brian Kelly, the head coach in Notre Dame, trying to put together a top 10 class and get ready for the college football playoff. Brian, thanks so much for joining us. How would you assess just the last few months here in this season, having to replace coordinators, go on the recruiting trail, and try to cobble together a top 10 class like you have?
Well, replacing coordinators, there are different scenarios, right? Some, move on for head coaching positions, which, you try to, prepare them for that opportunity. So, in some of those instances, you're hiring from within. Others, you're not having the success that you want. So, you're making changes there, and others you lose. We've been mostly, moving our guys on to better opportunities. We lost our defensive coordinator last year, but, we had somebody from within, in Clark Lee that seamlessly was able to step in and run our defensive structure that had already been in place. So, that transition can be much more difficult if it's an upheaval and you're changing systems and you have to put in a whole new offense and defense. We really haven't had to do that. Chip has run really the base of my offense that has been installed here. There's some tweaks, and he has had the freedom to put his own personality and play calling in there. And then we've kept our system of defense in there that Mike Galco has put in. So even though we've had some transition there, it's been pretty good continuity as well.
Brian, let's look at this recruiting class. The 3 highest rated players in your class and 9 of your top 12 are on defense. How did you go about attacking that side of the football and recruiting?
Yeah, so, each year, you're looking at the needs within your program. We felt early on that we wanted to address the lines, the offensive line and defensive line. I think we did that pretty good. I think within this class, I think we've got, 7 O-line and D-line. And that was really the focus. Now, from there, it starts to grow. From there, we needed to get some depth at the linebacker position. We wanted length and athleticism. That really was the 2 words, if you were in our staff meetings. Length and athleticism on defense was really, the core of what we were looking for. We were able to find those guys and put together a really good defensive class.
Brian, last year was the first year of the early signing period. This is your first year in the college football playoff, and coupled with the early signing period. How have you balanced that juggling act with your staff?
Yeah. So, preparation for the CFT, recruiting, award shows, football banquet. For me, it's a lot. Our university provides us the resources. We couldn't do it without the kind of travel that we're given. I've been from California to Connecticut, across the country. So, we've got the resources to do that. We've got a class from 16 states. So, it's difficult, but it really makes January a lot easier for us to get ahead of the game. We'll be in, the 2021s and even 22s, as crazy as that sounds. This early signing date allows us now to really not have to babysit in January and run around the country holding hand. We can now get to work on, that class down the road. And as hectic as it is in December, it helps us, in particular here at Notre Dame, a whole lot moving forward.
Oh, certainly. You use that word babysitting. 21 players in this class, by my count, 16 different states. You're saving a lot of travel miles and a lot of money here over the next couple of months. Thank you, Brian. Appreciate it. Good luck in the playoff.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you having me on.
Brian Kelly, head coach of the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. As you look at Ian Book, again, the number 22 quarterback, pocket passer in that 2016 class, replaced Brandon Wittenbush a few games into this season. And the other guys here in the playoff, number 1 at their respective positions. Kyler Murray, of course, started at Texas A&M. We've got some more highly rated players who are set to announce. Got a few guys coming from Lakeland, Florida, Lakeland High School, and Sipper, Summerall, and Hammond. And Noah Kane out of IMG, one of the top running backs in the nation, Tom Luganville.
Yeah, he's what I call a strong, one-cut north and south runner. He reminds me very similar to Bo Scarborough. When Bo came out, kind of a taller, upright runner. I don't know if he's quite as sudden as Bo Scarborough, but what he may actually do is avoid contact a little bit better with a forward lean in terms of having a lower pad level, which is going to help in durability, something Bo Scarborough had trouble with in terms of remaining healthy. I think this kid has an opportunity in an era where we don't need bell cows, but if you needed to have one, he could be that guy. And you see him here pick the ball off the ground, see that little twitchiness to make the defender miss in the hole, and that's on a big body, tall frame. Look at his pad level and how low his vision is. Now you're going to see a little bit of lower body side. And there's that one cut that I talked about, Trevor, with the north and south downhill approach. He is a very, very decisive runner.
Yeah, when you look at someone that can make a decision and hit it fast.
Yes.
That's what matters a lot. And I think the tougher the defense, the more important that is. You've got guys that had big careers in the Big 12.
Yeah.
That were able to get the ball in the backfield. They were able to look around and see what happened and then dance around and then boom, and then they'd hit it. Then they get to the NFL, they'd look around, smack, right? And,
You're right, yeah.
and if you can just make a decision and go right now, that decisiveness can bring a lot of success that talent won't be able to get you to if you're too delayed.
Got some decisiveness coming your way here in just a few moments from Noah Kane, the number 4 running back, number 68 overall. ESPN
for the Big Ten, I would love to see Penn State.
He's down to Auburn, Georgia, Penn State, Texas, SEC, Big 10, Big 12 out of IMG Academy, and Noah Kane joins us now. Noah, what's it going to be? It's all yours.
Well, I'd like to thank everybody for coming out today, friends and family. It's been a growing process this past few years.
Are we really feeding the
made some great relationships with coaches, people in the academic building, but there's gonna be one choice. And I'd like to thank Coach Walsh, Coach Wright, for giving me opportunities to play at the high school level and just fulfill my potential and let me achieve my dreams. But for the next 3 to 4 years, I'm taking my talents to Penn State.
Seriously, you said academics.
Saquon Barkley, Miles Sanders, Ricky Slade, Noah Kane is becoming RBU there. What stood out to you about Penn State, Noah?
I only visited twice, with my recruitment process, and the first time I went up there, I didn't know what to expect.
I wonder what months.
Yeah, but with Coach Franklin, Coach Sider, they've been nothing but transparent and real consistent with me throughout this whole thing. Never switched up. And I've seen the way they use the running backs, and they just the running back in our offense is a focal point, always involved in every play. And they're building something special up there.
What games have you been watching this year?
No, and there were points during this process. You were considered an LSU league.
Trace McSorley the focal point
to the SEC.
Got the ball in his hands every
How did your perception, how was your world rocked when you went on that visit to Penn State?
I mean, yeah, I was always an LSU lean, a Texas lean, because I'm down here. But I'm not afraid to be different. Penn State just presented some of the opportunities for me to come in early and just be focused up there. It's a different environment. And, Penn State's O-line and the offense they run fits my style of play very well.
Noah Kane. Congratulations, Noah, on the decision. Thanks for sharing it with us.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Noah Kane announcing they're at the Star, by the way, Dallas Cowboys training facility there in Frisco. They've got a running back who's pretty good in the Big Ten there as well. Impact running back there heading to Penn State in Happy Valley. What a big move, what a big get for James Franklin.
Yeah, and he mentioned offensive line, and that's important because James Franklin really likes to have third year and beyond offensive linemen. He doesn't like to have freshmen or true sophomores. Well, he's had some young guys in his first years there at Penn State. It's one of the reasons Saquon Barkley struggled at times. But now he's got guys that are in that position where they've been in the program 3 and 4 years. And as a matter of fact, the way their depth chart sets up right now, everybody is junior or below. Theoretically, all 5 starting offensive linemen could be back this year if nobody declares early for the NFL draft. And so that sets up success early for running backs.
The fit here as it relates to the overall skill set of Noah Kane, because Craig Hobart joined us from the SEC Network earlier mentioning how good his ball skills are. And whether it was Joe Moorhead at Penn State, whether it's been Ricky Ronnie, the offensive coordinator now, they love to get the back involved in the passing game. Force defense to have to account for where that back is outside the backfield, whether he's motioned out or he's leaving the backfield full snap. this kid is capable of doing those things. And the versatile skill set to contribute in the passing game is something that's got to be very attractive, a huge selling point for Penn State offense.
Because that's what you need to go to the NFL.
Absolutely.
And it's the same way with picking up blitzes and blocking.
Last year was their first top 10 class since 2006, trying to get back-to-back top 10 classes for the first time. You look at their class, losing Trace McSorley, got a couple of ESPN 300 quarterbacks as well, getting after the state of Virginia with Brandon Smith, Devin Ford, Don Dunbar, the wide receiver, and the latest commit signee, Noah King, number 4 running back at the ESPN 300, deciding to sign with Penn State. We got a few more announcements coming up in this very hour. The trio from Lakeland High School in Florida. Will they be staying home? Will they be going out of state? Are they a package deal? We're going to find out momentarily. Coming up, Scott Satterfield, head coach at Louisville. You're hired to do one thing, but could ruffle some feathers in the neighborhood. Did he do the right thing? We'll break that down.
Put a smile on everyone's face this holiday with great gifts from Amazon. With low prices and fast free delivery with Prime. For everything you need this holiday, visit Amazon.
This thing called love, this thing called love, I'm not
This holiday, give the gift of Peloton.
How did you know?
Attention, anyone on Medicare. If you suffer from back or knee pain and you are on Medicare, listen closely. If you answered yes to having back pain or knee pain and you're on Medicare, you may be eligible for a pain-relieving back brace or knee brace covered by Medicare at little to absolutely no cost to you. Call 800-630-2164 right now to see if you qualify. These professional-grade back braces are ideal for lower back pain, rheumatoid and osteoarthritis, and other painful back problems. Our medical-grade durable knee braces are designed for those with osteoarthritis and general knee pain and weakness. Call 800-630-2164 now, and we'll handle all of the Medicare paperwork. Plus, your brace will be shipped directly to your home for free. To see if you qualify for one of these amazing pain-relieving braces covered by Medicare, call the American Back and Knee Center at 800-630-2164. That's 800-630-2164. 800-630-2164.
Bring on Monday, because Mondays are made for Monday Night Football. Broncos Raiders, Monday at 8:15 on ESPN.
You're watching the National Signing Day Special, presented by Nissan.
Scott Satterfield replacing Bobby Petrino at Louisville, hired last week from Appalachian State. His staff going through their evaluations, which has resulted in revoking at least a couple of scholarship offers that were made by the previous staff. An offensive lineman out of Franklin Simpson High School was told he didn't have the measurables they were looking for, so the scholarship is no longer available. His high school coach tweeted that Louisville shouldn't bother coming to their high school to recruit anymore. And Scott Satterfield seems to know what he's doing in that round with all the success he had at App State. 3 straight Sun Belt titles there with the Mountaineers. Scholarships getting revoked by a new staff. Should the new staff follow through on commitments made by the prior staff?
Absolutely not. There's a reason why they were hired. And if a guy doesn't fit what your model is going to be and your blueprint to be executed requires a certain set of critical factors that you're looking for in the players that you are going to be responsible for when it comes to the win-loss column, then you've got to go out and you've got to recruit that type of player. And if that means you got to come in and make some tough decisions and let a young man know, let a high school coach know that that's the decision that has to be made, then that's what you're hired to do. That is your job. Now, is it always pretty? No, but this is also part of the reality of recruiting in today's world. And when I saw all this negativity surrounding this with Scott Satterfield on Twitter, I just sat there and scratched my head as if Scott Satterfield's the only coach in the history of the game that has taken a new job and decided that the guys that had been recruited by the previous staff weren't the right fit for his staff. It's as if this monster has been hired in Louisville. Well, all I know is he's been hired to win. And Trevor, that means he's got to do it the way he sees fit.
If you're a player, do you really want to go to a place that switched coaches and the new coach doesn't want you?
Exactly.
Do you want to go to a place where you're not wanted because they have to take you because they feel obligated to you, and they want to appease the high school coach? Or do you want to go somewhere where you are wanted?
Correct.
And the thing about Louisville is that it's still an ACC school. I mean, they're down right now. That's why they switched coaches. But anybody recruited to Louisville will probably have other options. And
you're actually doing the young man a favor.
Right, doing him a favor because he can go where he's wanted.
Correct. Yeah.
The interesting thing about it, the tough part about it is I think one of the student athletes was planning on graduating early. He had all his ducks in a row, and now he's got to look at some high school classes to take next semester. The counter to that, and I agree with everything you're saying. We always tell the kids, commit to the school, not the coach. Here are kids who wanted to commit to the school with the scholarship. So we're saying two different things. Now these guys aren't on the team yet.
Sure.
So there's the difference. There's probably guys on that roster that Satterfield wishes weren't. So man, and they don't have really an escape without sitting out here.
No, they don't. But that's one of the reasons that fans and boosters need to have patience. This takes time. You can pay a coach $10 million or $20 million. It won't change the time it takes to rebuild the program if you do it right. But I think one thing that was really interesting there was that the high school coach said, don't bother coming recruiting here. That's one thing.
All he's doing is hurting his other kids.
That's right. Because now some of those kids might have been a perfect fit for Louisville and Satterfield, and now he's excluded them. So I think that's a bit short-sighted as well.
Louisville just 4 commits right now. Tom Van Haren joining us. What more can you tell us about Louisville?
Well, I agree with what the guys are saying, and I think what I would add to that is now with the early signing period, these kids still have a month to go. And I understand with some of the early enrollee stuff, but these guys still have a month now to reevaluate and go look at other programs where we've seen last year some of the underrated guys, the under-recruited prospects that were left over in January. Now some of the other coaches are coming back in January looking to fill holes, looking to fill spots, and those guys have seen their recruitment pick up as well. And Matt, you mentioned 4 commitments right now for Louisville. The only opposite that I would say to that to negate the conversation is that you only have 4 commitments. You need to fill this class. That total for them right now, Matt, is the smallest number of commitments for any FBS program, which is astounding that you only have 4 in this class. For Power 5 schools, the next closest is Maryland and Illinois. They have 10 commitments. So Louisville a little bit behind the 8 ball in terms of how many prospects they're going to get in this class. But if you're in this situation, I think it's a better approach to go long-term than short-term than just try to cram prospects, as the guy said. If they don't fit, they don't fit. And I still think the prospects have a month left to really evaluate their recruitment and see if maybe there's another fit for them.
And thanks, Tom. And not to be too cynical about it, but if they only have 4 commits and they say they don't want you, they must really not want you. Goodness, the fewest commits right now in all of the FBS. Texas not having those problems as they're trying to put together a top 10 class. Alex Loeb there in Austin with Tom Herman.
Coach, what do you think about the signing class so far today?
Well, we're excited. You know, I think we've got all but one of our committed prospects signed, and that is definitely exciting. The early signing day and signing period is definitely taxing, especially when you're playing the conference championship game and you're only out on the road for 2 weeks. But proud of our coaches, proud of our players. They do such a remarkable job recruiting for us, and it's another happy day.
I know all the kids are like family to you, but right off the bat, if you could think of a few big names that stand out from this class, who would they be?
Well, obviously the quarterback in Roshan Johnson, you know, is always going to be a leader of that class. It needs to be, I think, a Tyler Johnson, you know, a family that's as good as gold, really. And then, you know, it's hard to single them all out. You know, the Gabriel Floyd's family is unbelievable. They live here in Austin, and you know, such a joy to be around. So the list goes on and on. That's one thing that we definitely pride ourselves in is we recruit families, and we want to make sure that these young men are the right fit for our program. Not just great athletes, not just great football players, but that are going to be able to survive and thrive academically and athletically in our culture.
All right, thank you, Tom Herman, for the time. Again, you look at this Texas class looking for back-to-back top 5 classes. They entered National Signing Day here at 8. They stand at 9. Tyler Johnson, number 6 offensive tackle from the state of Texas. Jordan Whittington, number 2 athlete from the state of Texas, but going outside the Longhorn State as well. Tonight, 6 o'clock Eastern time on Sports Center, Manny Machado with a meeting at Yankee Stadium. We'll see where he may end up. Postseason countdown, SVP with NFL playoff scenarios, and Tua with talking points. Yeah, how about Tua Tagovailoa rebounding from this injury and getting set to go for the college football playoff? That's on ESPN, streaming live on the ESPN app. And up next, we're excited in Lakeland High School in Lakeland, Florida. A trio of stars are set to announce. Are they staying at home? Are they going out of state? We'll find out in a moment.
Smirnoff vodka is made in America for everyone in America. No matter who you are, where you come from, what you look like, or who were better. Is it me?
No, sweetie. It's me. When you shop with Retail Me Not, you find money everywhere.
All right.
And when you save on everything, it really adds up. It's kind of a big deal. Retail Me Not, yours for the saving.
The biggest present you're getting this year? Lakers Warriors on ABC. LeBron versus Steph and KD.
Hello, everyone. Hello. Hopefully you can hear me over the TV. So I just sent record time starting at 12:30, running all the way until almost 10 o'clock, and I got a bunch of other people coming on who need to get back to me. So those are the record times. Those are not live streams. So I want to make that clear. YouTube does not like live streams. So those live streams will not get many views. I need to record those segments and then turn those around and upload those to the channel, because so many more people will watch them and they will be in the stream of suggested videos, etc. I would love to do live streams. That's what I wanted to do. That's easier for me, less editing, downloading, uploading, posting, all that other business. If I would actually do live streams, that would be better for me. That would be better for you. I would like it better because then we could have those guests on and I could be monitoring the live chat and I could be watching your response and your comments and questions and feeding those to the guests. That would be so much better. But this is the way we're going to do it today. So appreciate you jumping on the live chat, and you guys seem to be having fun talking back and forth, and I'm monitoring the live chat while I'm watching and taking in the information. My first guest is Stephen M. Smith from Touchdown, Alabama, 12:30. So I'll see you guys soon.
We got a trio of announcements to get to, all from Lakeland High School. You'll be shocked to know they won the state championship. De'Ave Hammond, Lloyd Summerall, and Keon Zipper, offensive lineman, a defensive end, and a tight end. Let's start on the offensive line. Number 102 in the ESPN 300. Number 2 offensive guard, Tom.
He's got some pop. He's got some initial quickness, good overall body quickness. Continues as most offensive linemen at this stage. You need to work with feet and technique and bend and all the different things that will make them not a good player, but a great player. But the physical skill set certainly is present.
Well, we know he's staying in state. We can connect those dots. It's down to Florida State, and the Gators took an official visit to Florida last week. And De'Ave Hammond is visiting with us now. De'Ave, one of the trio there at Lakeland High School, joining us. Looking sharp with the bow tie. Well, where are you headed? What's it going to be, De'Ave?
First off, I want to thank God. I want to thank my family, my friends, my teammates, and all my coaches. Definitely want to give a big shout out to my mom, my great grandma. You know, without them, any of this wouldn't be possible at all. And I just want to thank everybody for this journey. You know, it's been great and it's definitely been fun. But for the next 3 to 4 years, I will be furthering my education and career. University of Florida.
Had to do a little extra rummaging for that hat there in the bag, but De'Ave Hammond headed to Florida. How'd you decide between Florida and Florida State, De'Ave?
It was just all about the love and, the passion that the coach showed to me. It was just the communication. It was big. And also Florida is an upcoming program. I just love Coach Hevesy and Coach Mullen. I mean, they're great coaching. I'm definitely glad to be a part of it.
Yeah, I mean, what impresses you the most about what Dan Mullen has going on there in Gainesville?
It's definitely the family atmosphere. I mean, all the coaches, the players, they're all one. They all love each other. And I mean, it's just a very great family feeling.
DeAvi Hammond signing with the Florida Gators. Thanks for sharing it with us. We'll get to your teammates in just a little bit. Thanks, DeAvi. DeAvi Hammond, #2 offensive lineman, who, by the way, helped block for running back DeMarcus Bowman, one of the top juniors in the class of 2020. So he might be our cameras might be going back to Lakeland a year from now. Big get here for Dan Mullen.
Huge positional need. And given the set of circumstances that were inherited in the offensive line, and our broadcast crew every Saturday started to become the official broadcast crew of the Florida Gators. We had them 4 times this year. And early on in the season, this was an abysmal offensive front. I could make the argument throughout the course of the season, they really dramatically improved, but they don't have depth. And that's why the addition here is huge, because not only do you upgrade your talent, you upgrade your depth. You're adding more bodies into a position that is essentially reliant upon a trench play league. That's what the SEC is. So while there was improvement in the offensive line under Dan Mullen and John Hevesy, the offensive line coach, in year 1, it's more bodies and an upgraded talent that's going to help improve the overall depth.
And you're right about that depth in Florida. I went down there to visit Jim McElwain in his second year as head coach at Florida. And he said that when he first got there, they didn't have enough offensive linemen on scholarship to be able to run a spring practice. Right. They actually had to put out a cattle call to the campus and say, look, if you've ever played high school football, if you want to come in, put on the uniform, help us practice on the offensive line for a spring ball, come on out, we'll let you in. And they did that in order to have enough guys to be able to run practice. And so it's a long process to get the guys in, but also on the offensive line, not that many guys can come in and play right now as freshmen in the SEC. Right. Some can, few, but it's few and far between. So it takes time to build up that depth, and now they've got another piece of that puzzle.
DeAvi Hammond becomes right now the highest ranked prospect in the fold there in Gainesville for the Florida Gators. But we do have another. Let's go to the other side of the ball. Probably might be squaring off a little bit in practice. From DeAvi to Lloyd. Lloyd Summerall, number 128 in the ESPN 300, a top 15 defensive end.
Remember Brian Kelly from Notre Dame coming on and saying, we want length and athleticism, especially on the edge. Well, look at the length, 6'5", 210 pounds. Certainly athletic. You see the initial first step, the explosiveness, the ability to close to the passer. But it's the ceiling for physical development. At 210 pounds right now, next thing you know, you're 240, 245, 250, very similar to how Tim Williams was coming out of high school, attending the University of Alabama. So this kid's got a tremendous ceiling for development.
It's down to Florida. It's down to Miami. It's down to Nebraska, those trio of schools. Lloyd Summerall, we go to him live. We got a couple of Chucky dolls there. I'm sure we'll get a story out of that in just a moment. But Lloyd, it's all yours. Where are you headed?
First off, I would like to thank God. I would like to thank everyone who has recruited me this whole process, from my family members, my mom, my dad, my grandma. But for the next 3 or 4 years, I will be taking my talent to the University of Florida.
Florida is 2 for 2 so far with the 3 guys from Lakeland. Why Florida, Lloyd?
I feel like it was at home at first. Coach Dan Mullen, they talked to me and said it would be a good fit. Coach Grantham, they were there. They brought me through and told me everything I'll be doing this whole process. But yeah, that's it.
Lloyd, you transferred to Lakeland your senior year from Auburndale High School. What has joining the Lakeland High School football program done for you in your career?
It was definitely a great move. Just the team, when I came off, it was competition off the rip. So, that was a great advantage.
Got to ask you about the doll you're holding there. What's the story?
Man, I'm a dog, represent So I brought it here, and I continue the legacy of the Chucky Dog.
And recruiting's certainly not child's play, but you did have some fun there on the visit with Florida. This made the rounds here. It's you on the left side of the picture, and on the right we see your father dressed up in the garb as well. I don't know if this is a package deal or not, but what went into those photos there on your visit?
We were just having a little fun. Well, I honestly didn't know that was planned, but he came out. He just wanted to have a little fun with it, and that was it.
Not sure he has any eligibility left. Lloyd Summerall, thank you, Lloyd, and congratulations on the announcement.
Thank you.
All right. So 2 for 2, 15th ESPN 300 defensive end to sign with Florida, the ESPN 300 era. That's third most.
Well, we mentioned Todd Grantham. What does Todd Grantham want to do? He wants to pressure, and he wants to isolate his pressure packages to get the defensive ends one-on-one. See Ja'Kai Polite, see Zuniga, see C.C. Jefferson. I think that was a huge selling point for this young man. They get better along the trenches, particularly rushing the passer.
And he does have the ability to fill out that frame. Yep. Just look at his dad. Look at those guns on his father. For goodness sake. I came out of high school at 207 pounds, but I was recruited by Pac-12 schools and others and ended up at BYU. And what they all said was that they looked at me all tall and skinny, but they looked at my dad. He was a big guy.
Yeah.
And so that told them a lot. And I think you can look at his father, how he fills out a Gator uniform. It's going to be just fun.
Oh, wait, beware the Chucky doll. That did not bode well for previous iterations of that announcement.
Byron Coward?
With recruiting, yes, Byron Coward is who I'm referring.
He was one of those.
Yeah. By the way, just recognition of your Child's Play reference. It's going on all show.
I appreciate it. I wasn't lost there. Lloyd Summerall, congratulations to him. DeAndre Hammond as well. There's a third of that trio that is left. It is Florida getting all three of these guys. Keon Zipper, number one tight end, is an answer next.
I'm going to get my daddy something that he'll really, really, really love.
Follow me. If it was my dad, I'd give him this.
Open my first Sissy
Oh, okay. I really, really, really love it.
This holiday, take everything you love about Christmas and wrap it in red. When you buy online and pick up in store at Ace.
Ace is a place with helpful hardware folks.
Breathe freely fast with Vicks Sinex.
My congestion's gone.
I can breathe again. I can breathe again. Oh.
Vicks Sinex. Breathe on.
Your paycheck. Your family depends on it. But if something happened to you, you need life insurance. And chances are SelectQuote can get it for you for under $1 a day.
SelectQuote found Alec, 38, a $500,000 policy for under $23 a month. SelectQuote found Kenisha, 37, a $750,000 policy for under $23 a month.
SelectQuote's secret? They impartially shop a select group of highly rated companies like these for your best rates. Give your family the security it needs at a price you can afford.
Since 1985, SelectQuote has saved over 1 million families millions of dollars on life insurance. Call now, 800-281-4826. Or go to SelectQuote.com. Discover what over 1 million families know. We shop, you save.
December 29th is the Saturday of all Saturdays. First, it's Daryl's dominant defense versus the resurgent Pirates. Then you got Saban and Tide versus the explosive Sooners. Two Kansas playoff semifinals. Saturday, December 29th on ESPN.
You're watching the National Signing Day Special, presented by Nissan.
It's been a good start for Florida. We'll see if it continues here at Lakeland High School. Keon Zipper, number one tight end, H spot, number 63 in the ESPN 300 top.
You know, he's one of those fluid moving guys you see right there, runs really well, very agile, athletic, still developing as an inline blocker, but you see him split out here on the perimeter to give you an idea of how he can be utilized. Really sharp route runner for a big kid. This is a young man that has some Njoku type of traits. He was at the University of Miami, so highly sought after. And this is what we're seeing with the tight end. They're pass catchers now, and they're marginal usage in line.
At Miami, one of his 4 options that he's narrowed it down to: Alabama, Florida, LSU, and Miami. His nickname is Zip. He's kept his lips zipped about his decision. He's been peppered with questions about all of this. I know you're kind of done with those, but I promise you, you only have to answer it one more time. And here it is. Where are you headed to school?
First off, I want to thank God, thank my family, thank my coaches, teammates. I want to give a special shout out to my mom. But for the next 3 to 4 years, I'll be taking my talent to the University of Florida. Go Gators.
Oh boy.
We see the hat. We see the garb being unveiled behind you as you pick the Florida Gators. Why did you decide to go to Florida?
First off, it just felt like home. And the coaches, I can tell that they really love me. Coach Mullen showed the interest that he really loved me a lot since day one, even when he was at Mississippi State. I mean, the players, they really love me. They've been recruiting me as well. It's really the players who sold it. The coaches didn't really do too much. The players really got out everything.
So the 3 of you headed to Florida. Walk us through the conversations you guys were having as teammates about where you wanted to go to the school. Obviously, it's not a coincidence you're all going to Florida, but what were those conversations like?
I mean, it really wasn't no conversations between the Ivy. We really didn't know where he was going. And then he really just told us last minute. And then me and Lloyd was a package deal, so we already knew what we was going to do.
Wait, De'Anni told you last minute, like you found out right as he put on the hat? Is that what happened?
Yeah. We found out yesterday.
Okay, you found out yesterday. How did that change at head coach with Dan Mullen? How did that impact your decision with Florida?
I mean, he uses tight ends a lot, and I like the way he really uses them. So I figured he can use me at the same way as he had to use himself with tight ends.
Keon Zipper, it's official now. You don't have to answer any more of these questions. You're headed to Florida, and thanks a lot for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks to all you guys. Again, Lakeland High School. Go back to that 07 class. 07. We had 7 players from Lakeland going to Florida. You had the Pouncey twins. You had Chris Brady. You had Amon Black. We established in the pipeline. Went on to win a national championship. And now 3 from Lakeland High School, a team that just won the state championship. And now these 3 guys headed to Florida. What a class, Tom.
Yeah, when you look at their top 5 players at the class, they're all either in the offensive line, the defensive line, or the defensive front 7. They got their quarterback in Jalen Jones, who they're really excited about for the long-term development. But look at the positions, as we've talked about, Trevor. Offensive line, defensive line, front 7, quarterback. That's the areas of need for this roster, and boy, have they upgraded in terms of talent and depth.
Jalen Jones just said that quarterback/defensive tackle. Did I read that right?
Quarterback, dual threat.
Oh, dual threat. I'm the line when I see DT. I'm thinking, okay.
Don't worry, you're not the first person to say that.
For goodness sake. Yeah,
I used to say that all the time.
One of the things that Dan Mullen recruits there is leadership.
Yeah.
Because that's one of the things when he first got there, he didn't see enough of in that locker room. I think there was an expectation from the previous staff that there would be more leadership in the locker room. And I think there was a reliance upon that. When it wasn't there, I think the locker room kind of drifted a little bit. And that's one of the reasons there was a change in staff. I think leadership is one of the things that Dan Mullen is building. So much of what he does in the offseason is built around competition, built around driving guys together as family units within that team. And I think that's one of the reasons that having 3 guys from the same high school now come in on the same day, come into that locker room as a group. And I think that's part of the leadership he's trying to build.
There were those are some highly coveted prospects. Again, at that state championship game when they beat St. Thomas Aquinas, there were assistant coaches from LSU, Miami, and Florida sitting next to Keon Zipper's mother in the stands trying to woo and persuade. And obviously, the Gators went out, Tom Van Haren. What a day for Dan Mullen.
And you guys are talking about building this class and recruiting at Florida. And I've had a lot of questions come about of is Florida going to be able to get back to that top 5 class eventually under Dan Mullen? And I always tell people, look at the perspective of the recruit. They're only 17 years old. They probably really only remember football-wise the last 5-6 years of what's happened in front of them. And you look at what's happened at Florida the last 5 years. It's not the same Florida that the fans remember winning national championships. So it's going to take time to build that up. And I think this class is an excellent start for them. As I mentioned, 10 ESPN 300 prospects. They're adding talent. They're adding speed. They're adding athleticism, but they're adding it in a foundational way where they're going to build this roster up. It's going to take a little bit of time to get where they want, but I think the momentum that they have from this class, some of the excitement that they have, I think that's going to spill over to 2020, and we'll see Florida keep increasing in the rankings.
Thank you, Tom. We'll check over with you again on ESPNU. Again, just to reiterate, Florida did not have a commitment from a top 150 prospect. They just picked up 3 of those in the last 8 minutes. We'll find out again when we switch over to ESPNU, where Florida ranks in the updated class rankings. Chop at Lakeland High School. They're staying home in the Sunshine State.
Here to be devoted. Jared. This isn't a liner. Well, to be clear, it's an invisible liner from Smile Direct Club. Our liners take teeth like these and transform them into those. They discreetly take this and turn it into that. We send your liners directly to you. And in an average of 6 months, you could have a lifetime supply of confidence. Join more than 250,000 satisfied runners who got a smile they love for only $80 a month at SmileDirectClub.com.
The Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. The Gators and Wolverines meet again in a marquee top 10 matchup in the heart of Atlanta. Florida, Michigan, December 29th at noon.
When winter hits, you need a plow that's reliable and built for our tough winter conditions. From homeowners to commercial plowers, Goff's Equipment has the right Boss plow to clear your way. From straight blades to V-plows, Boss has you covered. When you need a restore order this winter, look no further than Goff's, Route 202, Litchfield. And everything that Goff sells, we service. Goff's Equipment, Litchfield County's Boss Plow Connection. Get your Boss at Goff's.
Where's Jeff?
At Torrington Ford Lincoln, we have a little problem.
Megan, have you seen Jeff?
Our owner, Anthony, can't find Jeff, our new manager.
Where is Jeff?
Anthony wants to know why Jeff is giving everyone such great prices. But Jeff is pretty fast. In the meantime, stop down and see Jeff for a great price on a new Ford or Lincoln before Anthony finds it. Torrington Ford Lincoln, big enough to serve you, small enough to know you.
The National Signing Day Special is presented by Nissan, premier partner of the Heisman Trophy.
We got some announcements still to come. 3 players in the top 40 of the ESPN 300, including running back Trey Sanders. Those announcements will happen after the top of the hour over on ESPNU, where teams hope to move one step closer to winning a national title by gaining that all-important signature. It's time to coin a new phrase. It's not about the X's and the O's. It's about the Jimmies and the Joes. Go ahead and use that anytime. Just remember where you heard it first. That line is more than just a cliche. It's clairvoyant, a true predictor of who has the best shot at winning the national championship. How about this? Each of the last 6 national champions had a 4-year average recruiting rank in the top 10. Alabama, Florida State, Ohio State, Alabama, Clemson, and Alabama all had top 10 class averages for the 4 years leading up to their titles. And all of those schools had a top 4 class 2 years prior to winning the title. That means the sophomores and redshirt freshmen on those 6 title-winning teams were part of a top 4 class. Now, how does that factor into this year's college football playoff? Well, Of the 4 teams involved, only Alabama and Clemson have had a 4-year average recruiting class ranking in the top 10. And 2 years ago, only one of them had a top 4 class, Alabama. If the Tide does it again, you can trace it back to recruiting, proving once again that winning a national championship begins with winning on National Signing Day.
Wow.
Thank you for that report.
There was so much green screen there. I thought I'd seen the Millennium Falcon, maybe a dinosaur, a T-Rex.
That's on the director's cut.
I like that.
Class rankings as of 11 a.m. Again, just a few minutes away from updating those at the noon hour over on ESPNU. You see LSU moving up a spot to 6. Oklahoma up to 8. Notre Dame still in the top 10. Alabama, Texas A&M, and Georgia, Michigan, Oregon are your top 5. Yeah, we'll update you after the noon hour over on ESPNU. First 2 hours nearly in the books. What's been the big takeaway so far?
Certainly the Florida Gators, and what they at least began the day with, in my opinion, has been very strong. But I also go back to a comment that Tom Herman made about the recruiting process and wanted to thank his own players in the sense of, who do we put with this particular prospect that's on our current roster that's the right marriage to help us secure that kid? I think that gets glossed over and overlooked sometimes, Trevor, in terms of your own players being your best recruiters.
They are, and they buy into his culture there. Right. And that's why you're talking about the right player. You've got to be willing to not just be compliant with the culture, but to embrace it. I talked to Tom Herman about that concept. He said when he first got there, the players were compliant. They would do what they were asked to do. That was it. Now he said they're committed.
Yeah.
And he needs guys that will commit to that. That's every single school. And I would suggest this to all the players that are signing today, that they might think their football is what's going to make them great college football players. That's not it.
Yeah.
They will run head on into personal development programs there. And if they embrace those, then their growth as young men will make them better football players.
Now, recruiting has changed a lot. We're going to say goodbye to you here in about 5 minutes, but I want to get a story from you. Recruiting. What was your experience like in the Wayback Machine?
Well, I was recruited
the
Wayback Machine. Yeah, my 5 trips were to 4 schools in the Pac-12 and then to BYU. And I had a family issue as well. My father did not want me to go to BYU. He wanted me to go to Cal, right? And he was in the room when I signed, and I thought he was going to fight the BYU coach. Seriously, I thought I was going to sign this and look up and see that the defensive line coach of BYU, the school I just signed with, unconscious on the So fortunately, Dad didn't do that. And after a national championship, he was okay with it.
And the rest is history. Very, very cool. We're after the top of the hour. A few more prospects set to announce. That's coming up on ESPNU. So flip over there. Trevor, thank you for hanging with us.
Thanks, buddy.
Early signing day, otherwise known as National Signing Day. See on ESPNU a few more prospects to make their announcements. Updated class rankings as well. It is National Signing Day, where if you want to win on the field, you got to win in recruiting. More live announcements, 3 more hours. It's National Signing Day.
Welcome to the National Signing Day Special, presented by Nissan.
Here's your hourly update of players that have already signed. More than 1,100 in our database have signed. The percentage of the class signed is already at 41%. Remember last year, that was more than 70% signed by the end of the early signing period, which of course runs today through Friday. Matt Chick, along with National Recruiting Director Tom Luganville. But we've seen a handful of guys announced. We were on ESPN2 the last 15 minutes. Florida come in with a barrage. What's been the big story here so far?
That it's a marathon, not a sprint. You know, the one thing that I will say about the Florida Gators, and I think this is very, very important to note, is that if you're a Florida Gator fan and you've expected all of these high-profile names, 4-star, 5-star guys, and maybe leading up to this period, you haven't seen a lot of that. What I would advise you to do is take a lot of stock in Dan Mullen's ability to identify, evaluate, and most importantly, develop players, even ones that didn't have the biggest names, even those that didn't come in with the greatest of notoriety during his tenure at Mississippi State. Allow him to identify not only the best player, but the right player, and understand that the recruiting process is a long one. And so I think Florida has made an early statement. Ohio State, out of the Big Ten right now, suffering a few defections early on as Jordan Battle decides to decommit, sign with Alabama. Quarterback DeJuan Mathis decommits, ends up signing with the University of Georgia. That doesn't mean the sky's falling in Columbus. I think it's anything but that. But the process may head into January, maybe a little bit more for the Buckeyes than some people would have anticipated. So far for the usual suspects, a little bit quiet on the Alabama front. That could change here in the next 3 hours with some upcoming verbal commitments that we have here with us on ESPNU. And I think the other thing to note is the job that Oregon out of the Pac-12 is doing, and not only with Kayvon Thibodeau, but the class as a whole, creating some relevance for the conference. Herm Edwards seems to be going strong at Arizona State right now. 3 ESPN 300 quarterbacks committed to the Sun Devils, one of which I think they feel like they may be in danger of losing. We'll see if they sign. And then the question is the 72-hour period moves on. What does USC and UCLA do as blue blood programs? How do they close for this period? What does that mean for the Pac-12 and for SC and UCLA in January?
And we're finding that the state of California is a lot more vulnerable now than it used to be in terms of those in-state programs. You've got Oregon that has certainly been able to pluck the top 2 prospects out of the state of California. You've got more announcements to come. Number 2 running back, Trey Sanders, is going to be SEC, ACC, Big 12. Radarius Jones, an SEC battle for the top 60 athlete. Nakobe Dean out of Horn Lake, Mississippi. Evan Neal, by far the biggest man to make an announcement today. We'll see where he goes. But we mentioned it, Kayvon Thibodeau, the #1 player in California, the #1 player in the ESPN, 306'5", 234-pound defensive end out of Westlake Village, California. The first top-ranked prospect Oregon has landed since ESPN started ranking prospects, vaulting Oregon into the top 5 of our class rankings. What a good it was, Tom.
It was a huge pickup. This guy, for me, is a little bit of a combination of Myles Garrett and last year's #1 ranked defensive end, Iyaba Yanoma, who ended up signing with Alabama. You blend the 2 of them, and you kind of come up with Kayvon Thibodeau. It's not just impactful for Oregon because of what he means to that defense and the type of player that he is. But I think it's more impactful, or as impactful, for the Pac-12 to have a great player like this within Southern California stay out west. When your other finalists are Florida State, and Alabama, and UCLA and USC are not in your top finalist as a Southern California kid, that's concerning. So it's imperative that Oregon holds on to this one. They did. Mario Cristobal, I think ever since he became the head coach at Oregon, putting the rest of the conference on notice that the shift in the process and by which we are going to approach recruiting on a day-to-day, year-round basis, and the level of importance that's going to be placed on it, in the area of which we're going to live, Matt, when it comes to dealing every day with our compliance department. What I mean by that is when we're trying to get an edge, and we know what the rule is, we want to get an interpretation on the rule. Hey, we want to do this. Can we do that? No, you can't do that. That's pushing the envelope. Well, can we do this if we did this? Yeah, you guys can go ahead and do that. And that constant back and forth of ensuring that you are maximizing the rules to flood the market with Oregon recruiting. I think Mario Cristobal has made that shift, and it's going to be good for the rest of the conference to force everybody to compete.
There's no doubt bringing that SEC type of amount, a little bit from his footprint, at least from his background, state of Florida and Alabama as well. Speaking of the Tide, they had 7 straight top 2 classes That streak was snapped last year when they finished all the way down at number 6, but here they are at number 1 in the class rankings. Yeah, the program's certainly in shambles. Here they are at number 1 and likely going to finish strong again and finish at number 1. What's been most impactful here about this class for 2019?
Well, first I want to go back to that last class and all the sky is falling, mentality.
It's a numbers issue.
It was a numbers issue. You got to understand that you've only got the available scholarships to hand out that you have available to you. So when your number is going to be reduced and it's going to be smaller, you are going to really do your due diligence because you cannot afford to miss on guys. So you fast forward to this class. I think the one thing that stands out to me about Alabama is you have the usual mode of operation in relationship to the type of player and the position at which that player plays. So where are the areas that Alabama has built a championship football team? It's been in the offensive line, right? It's been in the defensive secondary. It's been in their front 7 in some way, shape, or form. You have to go down literally 10, 12 spots in this class of Alabama's class, and only 2 guys are in the skill position area, yet they're both on defense. Everybody else is either in the defensive line, the offensive front, at defensive corner. We know that's been a strong position for Alabama, of course, a long-standing tradition. And then in the defensive front 7 with more linebackers. Now, yes, they miss on Kayvon Thibodeau. The thing, if you're Alabama, is you just shrug that off and you go back to your player pool and the areas that you're recruiting from, and you realize it's a replaceable guy. You can find another answer somewhere else. Now, that's not the truth for everybody. It happens to be, though, for Alabama in this instance.
And you look at their class, they had entering the day 21 4-stars, a 5-star. The only 3-star they had was the number 1 kicker, which I think
that guy's obviously slacking.
But I think Alabama's happy. The fans are happy. Yes, the number 1 kicker. That would be the one.
Hey, well, listen, that's an area.
Will Reichert. That's it.
Yeah. That's an area of their football team that needs dramatic improvement.
That's the point. I mean, he thinks he's going to compete for all 3 kicking jobs. They pick up the number 1 kicker in the ESPN rankings, and you see Tua's brother there. How does he compare the 2?
Different but the same. And it's interesting because you've got him in the sense of physical measurables and the approach and how he goes about the game, very similar to Tua. But then in Paul Tyson, you have a completely dramatically different shift in style of quarterback to more of a multiple pro style drop back classic guy that's going to be from within the pocket player. So 2 quarterbacks in the class, both bring a different type of skill set, certainly going to bring a level of competition where you know the expectation is that we're going to let the best guy play. And just because somebody plays before another guy doesn't mean that that's going to be the long-term answer. We've seen that with Jalen Hurts as it relates to Tua Tagovailoa. Then you go back to Jalen Hurts when you need him most to win the SEC. So I think the quarterback position and the understanding of what's expected, if you're going to get recruited by Alabama and they're going to decide to offer you a scholarship, know what you're getting into because it's not going to get easier. It's going to get harder because the best of the best are going to be competing to play.
Alabama there at number 1, a team that we're accustomed to seeing in the top 10, if not the top 5, is now outside the top 15. That's the Ohio State Buckeyes. We talk about just programs navigating these coaching changes with the early signing period. And one's legendary status is Urban Meyer, the guy with national championships to his name. He retires there at Ohio State. In steps Ryan Day, first head coaching job. This is not a training wheels job. This is a big boy job here at Ohio State. Lost a couple of recruits today. How do you assess where the Buckeyes stand here with Ryan Day?
Well, number 1, they're going to end up being just fine long term. Number 2, go back to what I said about the University of Alabama. Their numbers are not going to be as great as we've seen in the past. So they're also being very, very careful. They have to deal with the early signing period portion that's going to require a prospect to commit to the program, commit to the process, and not necessarily commit to an individual, because there will be players signing with this class that will not know who their position coach may or may not be, may not know who their coordinator may or may not be. And you're asking that player to trust you as a decision maker, trust the program, trust what we stand for. I think that will end up being just fine, but I also believe that coming out of bowl season, when Ryan Day takes over full time, and you start to see some subtle shifts within their staff, you'll see them have a really strong January heading into February for the next signing.
And 2 of the names you don't see on there because they were flipped. You see the quarterback, Juan Mathis, who was flipped to Georgia from Ohio State. Jordan Battle started the day, a back-end player on the defensive side, flipped from Ohio State to Alabama. How significant are these losses here for the Buckeyes?
Well, I think the one is as a result of what's taking place with Justin Fields at Georgia. And listen, DeJuan Mathis wasn't the only player that they were pursuing. Joey Yellen, I know, is another player verbally committed to Arizona State. Georgia was trying very, very difficult to try and lure to Athens once the news of Justin Fields came out. But certainly, you don't like to see defections. The one thing you want to avoid as a coaching staff, as a head coach, are surprises on National Signing Day. But it's certainly not the end of the world. I think Ohio State has established themselves as a program where they can recover from this because they have such great access to such great players, not only at the same position, but in a variety of footprints of this country, so they can get into other areas to supplement some losses.
Again, there's an uncommitted prospect, top 10, Zach Harrison, defensive end, who they're waiting on. It's Penn State, Michigan, Ohio State battle. So that would certainly help with the Buckeyes in their current class. Right now they're ranked at number 17.
It should be noted, too, Matt, that many of these players, including Garrett Wilson there, when the shift was made and the change in the announcement was made that Ryan Day would be the head coach, a lot of these players came out with public statements about their support of this move and their support of Ohio State and their renewed commitment. That's positive.
The impact Urban Meyer has had on Buckeye recruiting cannot be overstated. Ohio State has always been a national brand, but Urban Meyer took it to another level. In the ESPN 300 era, so beginning in 2006, under Jim Tressel, Ohio State had an average class rank outside the top 10. Starting in 2011, when Urban Meyer took over, Ohio State's average class ranking was inside the top 5, with a top 7 class in every one of his seasons in Columbus. Meyer also signed a total of 93 prospects from the ESPN 300. That's the second most in that span, behind Nick Saban. Urban Meyer, of course, spent some time in Florida as a head coach, and he spent some time there recruiting for Ohio State, signing 20 players from the Sunshine State. That was the second most recruited state for the Buckeyes, behind Ohio. In fact, in Meyer's last 3 classes, Ohio State signed more top 50 prospects from the state of Florida than any other team signed during that span. Yes, even more than the teams who actually play in the state of Florida. But the lasting imprint of Urban Meyer's recruiting efforts can be found in the 2013 class, a class that included 6 eventual first-round NFL draft picks. It was that class that helped lead the Buckeyes to the 2014 National Championship. Safe to say that when it comes to Urban Meyer's recruiting footprint, Ryan Day has some big shoes to fill. I could live in that green screen. National Signing Day.
That's not real?
Presented by Nissan. Top Big Ten recruiting classes. You see Michigan, the changing of the guard here, at least this year. Ohio State, they're at number 17. That's the lowest ranked Ohio State class, at least thus far, since Urban Meyer became the head coach. Welcome in, recruiting insider analyst Tom Van Haren. Tom, how has Urban Meyer's retirement impacted this class?
Well, it's been interesting because it hasn't been like other coaching changes. This has been a season-long process, really, starting with Urban Meyer's 3-game suspension at the beginning of the season. Ryan Day took over for those 3 games, and then there were rumors swirling throughout the season about Urban Meyer's health, which he later addressed and said it dealt with headaches and a cyst on his brain. And that started a little bit of a snowball effect in recruiting. And we've seen it throughout the year where this class has kind of stayed at that 11-12 range heading into this early signing period. And now we see him at number 17 overall. You talk about the recruiting that Urban Meyer has done, while Ryan Day has big shoes to fill. With a lot of the prospects that I've talked to, and Tom mentioned it, that some of them came out with public statements in approval of Ryan Day being the full coach. A lot of the prospects that I talked to have echoed those statements, saying if anyone were to be the head coach, they want it to be Ryan Day. So this class might not be as good as the Buckeyes want, but I think they'll have some positivity going forward with more stability looking forward in the 2020 class.
Again, and this is technically Ryan Day's first recruiting class, but he's only been the head coach for less than a month, just a few weeks here. So we kind of know that next year there should be a bounce back. We've seen that, Tom, with some of these coaches from their first to second year. How would you analyze how some of these coaches have done in their first full recruiting cycle?
Yeah, I think you have to start with Jimbo Fisher at Texas A&M. The job that they've been able to do, jumping up to the number 2 ranked class. And I think what's important to look at is the state of Texas. 12 ESPN 300 commitments in this class. All of them are from Texas. And you look at last year what the University of Texas was able to do in state. They landed a lot of the top recruits in the state of Texas. And now Jimbo Fisher comes in. He's able to reel them away, sign them with Texas A&M. And I think they have a unique pitch where they're in the SEC. They can tell a lot of prospects, hey, you can come and play at home. Your parents can still watch you play, but you can still play in the SEC if you play here. So you look at Jimbo Fisher and what he's done. Mario Cristobal, we talked about at length at Oregon and what he's done. And I think Jeremy Pruitt, someone else we haven't mentioned yet, at Tennessee, I think with what he's dealt with, how that coaching change happened and what that program is, I think I would mention Jeremy Pruitt in that conversation as well.
Interesting. Again, Tom Van Haren. We'll catch up with you in just a few moments. Thank you, TVH. And again, he mentioned Mario Cristobal putting together a nice class, and this is a big reason why. Literally, the number 1 player in the state of California is the number 1 player in the ESPN 300. Kayvon Thibodeau, 6'5", 234-pound defensive end out of Westlake Village, California. And he joins us now on the phone. Kayvon, appreciate your time here. Just walk us through what the last few days have been like for you since you finally made your official decision.
This is probably the calmest my life has been in 2 to 3 years. I've been able to just, really cope with my decision and be happy about it. Around my family, just being able to just soak up the moment. It's been great.
Yeah, must be a little awkward not having to check your phone or feel the vibration there on your phone every 2.5 seconds.
It feels great.
What's been the reaction of family and friends and those closest to you?
I mean, a lot of people have been asking me why. My family's been just happy. Everybody, a lot of friends, everybody's just happy for me. Happy to see me choose my college and just
everyone just all day.
Why would I choose Oregon over Alabama? And
12:30 until 9:30
winning games to me. It's really just about how I further my life today. And I was probably one of my biggest points to
Speaking of that, Kayvon, when you were taking your visits, you didn't just visit the schools, the athletic offices, and the weight rooms. You were also visiting some historical places in the cities that you visited. Walk us through some of those places. Where you visited and why you did that?
But it will be a great day. Hey, sis.
I think it was like the 16th Street Church.
So again, it's Sunday. This is typically first Wednesday of February. Starting in 2017, they moved it up to an early signing day in December. They still have an initial signing day in February. But as was proven out last year, about close to 80% of the top rated players. And let's see, these Power 5 schools.
Kevin, I've heard you might want to get your a law degree. You want to get behind the sports center desk. What do you want to do after football?
Okay, I've been kind of all over the place for a long time.
Guys are doing live stream on, really how much right now that is putting along.
Now, I'm not saying I'm not a student,
because I'm not
there's a lot of paperwork that goes along. And you have to do paperwork all day.
I didn't
really feel like I was the deaf guy or behind
right now. You will see on the live stream a window and a wall, but you will see about 35 people watching because they're chatting college football. And Harry Silver playing the best live chat of college football.
All right, so let's audition you here. Should they expand the playoff? Why or why not?
So, Stephen is
the college football playoff.
And the reports coming out.
I mean, everybody says expand the playoff because of like the powerhouse teams with Alabama and all that, but expand the playoff probably would be too much. There's so many games. You training year round. I mean, I would do it, but I'm not a fan of it. I can understand why they do it to make more money to have more games. But I'm not really a fan of playing 1,000 games.
Very good. And you cut through with your opinion. That's very good. That's key in this business. Hey, let me ask you this. You're an avid chess player. you make pottery, but you don't like Fortnite. You're not on that bandwagon. Why?
Yeah. Because I play Madden. I like Fortnite is a game that you got to be by yourself. You're with a team online. Like me, I'd rather sit in a room with people and play the game. You know, like I'm not a solo player guy. Like I want to play against somebody that I'm sitting with. I can talk some trash to.
There are a lot of parents out there who would like to call you their son. Kayvon Thibodeau.
Yeah, Fortnite is terrible.
There you go. Kayvon Thibodeau. Appreciate the time and congratulations on your announcement. Thanks for sharing some more relaxed time with us here.
Thank you. No worries.
Kayvon Thibodeau, #1 in the ESPN 300. Such a, I guess, unique is the appropriate word, and refreshing.
Yeah, and what have we seen over the years when you have personalities like that, and you combine that with, understanding who you are, having a good head on your shoulders, having a good support structure, understanding the expectation level, having a work ethic, checking all of the boxes that don't really have anything to do with your physical makeup is what leads you to being a great player. And this kid happens to have all those other things, plus the ability to be a very disruptive edge guy. He's like personality-wise, Christian Logan on screen.
Yeah, I like that.
Very similar.
That's a very good comparison, both character-wise, personality-wise, and playing-wise. How about this? Joey Porter Jr. picks Penn State, #20 safety, #285 in the ESPN 300. See the photo? You see Dad there on the right, Joey Porter Jr. in the middle. Of course, Joey went to Colorado State. Big pick up here for James.
Yeah, man, I'm telling you, Penn State has been on the rise, at least in the early going today. Big running back as well with Noah Kane, Joey Porter Jr., another ESPN 300 player as a safety.
Hey everyone,
so
it's Mark here.
Very well finishing the top 10 back-to-back years for the first time. Texas trying to do that as well with another top 10 class. We'll check here. Former Longhorn and annual Acho. See if you know what our top hurdle is fielded in Boston. What about the rest of the Big 12? We'll run down the league, surprises, disappointments, question marks. They're in the recruiting room. This is National Signing Day.
February, but we found out last year the top players signed on this day.
Presented by.
So we will see some MarkRogersTV first one the entire day. Crazy day. Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky, Florida.
Hey.
Oh my goodness, LSU, Clemson, Pitt, Ohio State, Penn State, Washington, Stanford, USC, UCLA, Arizona State, which is missing some. Oklahoma State.
I don't
On and on and on. And MarkRogersTV, so please look us there. National Signing Day coming. See you soon.
So yeah, and so are we. You guys are fired.
Get to know Geico and see how much you could save on renter's insurance. Cats will do anything for the irresistible taste of Temptation Streets.
What are you doing?
Temptations. Cats can't resist. Introducing the $6 King Box. Choose from the Flame Grilled Whopper or 3 other favorites and get fries, a drink, and 2 cookies for just $6. The $6 King Box. Only at Burger King.
Hi, I'm Hunter Ellis, and this is Magic Ear by Atomic Beam. It gives you the astonishing experience of super hearing. No more embarrassing complaints as you watch TV.
Please turn that down.
With Magic Ear, you don't have to turn up the volume or ask anyone to repeat themselves. You can even hear a whisper 100 feet away.
See, Dawn, she looks amazing.
Sportsmen and bird watchers use it to hear noises that are too low for the human ear. Magic Ear gives you the incredible experience of super hearing. Order Magic Ear by Atomic Beam right now for just $19.99. But wait, order now and you can double the offer. Just pay a separate fee. Plus, we'll ship them free and fast. That's 2 Magic Ear by Atomic Beam and free shipping. Here's how to order.
Call 1-800-804-9618. That's 1-800-804-9618. Or visit GetMagicEar.com. So call 1-800-804-9618. Order now.
You're watching the National Signing Day Special. Presented by Nissan.
Tom Herman came to Texas after a couple of years as head coach for the Houston Cougars. Went 7-6 his first year in Austin. Then The Longhorns to the Big 12 championship game in year 2, coming up just short to the Oklahoma City top 5 class last year. Watched out the wide receiver, top 150 player from Ohio State, last night. But recruiting efforts are showing in the numbers. No team in the Big 12 is more convinced. The ESPN 300 prospects are outside of Texas. More so this year, less than half of ESPN 300 convinced. So, Texas, again, Texas hanging out there in the top 10 back-to-back top 10.
Alabama, LSU.
Right now,
Georgia,
Texas
South Carolina,
NFL linebacker as well.
Ohio State, Penn State, Florida.
Today, Manuel, you've followed this program obviously very closely. How have you seen this program change in the short 2 years under Tom Herman? They've gotten more physical. It's really that simple. Texas had really lost its identity for the several years prior to Tom Herman. Tom Herman comes in, and there is now a tenacity, a toughness, a certain rage that's played with on the football field. That matters because the Big 12, again, is so flashy. There's so many touchdowns being scored. You forget that football is played, and it is won because of physicality, and Tom Herman brought that mentality day one. You played high school football there in the state. You played defense. You played in the Big 12.
Hey everyone, I have got to jump on the line with Stephen M. Smith of Touchdown Alabama, so I am stopping the live stream and I will be recording every half hour from now until 10 o'clock. I will try to use the gaps in time in between to get those notifications and those postings out to you with all the team reports from across the nation. I appreciate you guys jumping on the line. We will see you soon.